Released in 1985, written by Mark Grunwald with pencils by Bob Hall, inks by John Beatty, and colors by Christy Scheel. This is Squadron Supreme, the Utopia Principle. The book begins at the edge of the stratosphere as Hyperion, with his awesome might, struggles with halting the crashing 347-ton Squadron satellite base. 3.5 minutes later, he makes splashdown and is met by other members of the Squadron Supreme: Amphibian, Whizzer, and Dr. Spectrum. Dr. Spectrum uses his power prism to create a sling with which they haul the satellite to shore. There it is. The finest man-made object ever put into the sky. The satellite headquarters of the Squadron Supreme. Now a dilapidated husk. If only we had gotten through it a bit sooner, we might have been able to correct its decaying orbit. Maybe it was meant to come crashing down on our heads. Meanwhile in Niagara, Power Princess, Nuke, Arcana, and Captain Hawk continue their aerial survey of America. They come across civilians in the process of looting a crashed food ration truck. The heroes land and the crowd panics. Hawk tells them to drop the stolen food and return to their vehicles immediately when an elderly man steps forward from the crowd and exclaims that they haven't had decent meals in weeks. Not since the gangs from the cities have ventured out further and further and are raiding parties to farmlands and livestock ranches. The squadron are taken aback, and Hawk tells them to just take what they need. But then bullets begin cracking the air. The squadron leaps into action. Arcana forms a protective spell around the civilians as Nuke and Power Princess make their way to the origin of the hail of fire. A military jeep speeds to a halt and explains that they've arrived to assist the ration truck against the looters. Power Princess orders them to stand down, but the troops open fire. Nuke uses his ability to generate nuclear energy to decay their weapons and vehicle. Power Princess stops him from going even further, and they all leave. Elsewhere, over the Midwestern states, the scientific genius and inventor Tom Thumb pilots Nighthawk, Golden Archer, and Lady Lark as they discuss how the hell they're gonna fix America. Tom says that anything broken can always be fixed, as they arrived at a fire at a deserted natural gas plant. The team disperses, Tom and Nighthawk heading off to shut down the gas storage tanks, while the Golden Archer and Lady Lark attempt to deal with the fire itself. They find a water tower, but it's no use, so Lark uses her hypersonic cry to signal Nighthawk and Tom that they need to get the hell out of there. They all narrowly escape the fire as Archer calls Tom a midget repeatedly. A few hours later, in the mountain ranges of northern Moorland. I should also point out before continuing that, like DC Comics, Earth 712 has a plethora of fake cities, states, and regions and countries that are brought up during this series. There's no map or anything that explains where these places are in relation to the real world or themselves, just that they exist. So in the mountain ranges of northern Moorland, the squadron arrive at their temporary base, and later, after everyone is situated, they begin their emergency meeting. The heroes note that the world they once protected is in utter shambles, and it's their fault. Nuke argues that they had nothing to do with it, since they were controlled by the Overmind, but Whizzer points out that, to the people, especially the American people, it doesn't matter what strange tale they tell of an alternate universe mind-controlling alien villain. They still failed to protect the world. Kyle then says that the situation is their fault, especially his. Arcana and Nuke point out that they did stop Overmind, and Nuke says that they won like they always do, even if it did take a little while. Whatever we do, it's going to be tricky. The squadron's lost a lot of credibility by becoming the government's super militia. The United States government, the American system, myself as a president, how can we say it was all a mistake? That we were under some alien's control and expect them to believe us or forgive us? We can't.
Defeatist talk will get us nowhere, Kyle. It is deeds, not words, that will restore our credibility and save the world in the process.
Power Princess then goes on to explain that on the small island that she hails from, Utopia Isle, and the Utopians, which I love this little detail, are a result of genetic experimentation of early humans by the Kree. So they're essentially inhumans of this universe. There's not a lot of stuff like this in the comic series, like references to the real 616 universe. You know, there's like great power comes great responsibility that Hyperion says later. There's this note of the Kree. But it's just these little breadcrumbs here and there that just to remind you, yeah, it's still the Marvel Universe. It's just a very different version of it. and I just really love it. Anyway, the people of Utopia Isle had no poverty, injustice, discrimination, or crime. But when the atomic bomb was harnessed and used in World War II, Utopia constructed itself a spacecraft and left Earth, leaving Zarda, the Power Princess, behind to act as their sole emissary. She says that the ideals of Utopia Isle is what they must strive towards now. A new society, a brave new world unlike the previous one, which failed.
Perhaps you have something there, Zarda. My parents instilled in me the moral code and values I live by. One of the things they taught me is that it is wrong to use my power to interfere too far into mankind. But maybe they were wrong. If I choose to prevent one accident, don't you think I was aware of all the others I wasn't preventing? I still had the power to choose which lives to save and which ones not. I could have done far more. Well, this curbing of power policy hasn't worked. Maybe this crisis could have been avoided if we had all been living up to our potential. With great powers such as ours come equally great responsibilities. We've never truly faced up to that fact. I propose we dedicate ourselves to remaking the world as Zarda said, a utopia. We should not just randomly stop supercriminals, an alien invader, or a natural disaster and leave the rest of the world's problems unaddressed. Problems which inflict the majority of mankind with suffering and death. We should actively pursue solutions to all the world's problems. Abolish war and crime, eliminate poverty and hunger, establish equality among all peoples, clean the environment, cure diseases, and even cure death itself.
Hear, hear!
Right on.
Just a moment, Hyperion. We've known each other for a long time. I've fought to make the world a better place too. But solving all the world's problems and handing it to people on a silver platter just seems wrong. How meaningful will a utopia be if it's a gift and not something that has been earned by mankind's own labors? And what if they don't accept it? Will you force them to take it?
If there's a way to save countless lives who would have been lost to all of these afflictions, and we don't try to implement it, what kind of heroes would we be?
I'm not certain about this utopia plan either. If something goes wrong, couldn't we leave the world in a worse shape than it is now?
Frankly, Lark, I don't see how the world could ever be as bad off as it is now.
Well, how about we put it up to a vote? The fate of the world, decided by a vote among the powerful elite. Fine. But before we vote, let me just say one thing. To institute a utopia, we will have to take control of the world. And to the average person out there, is that any different than what the Overmind tried to do? In either case, there is no free will.
Come on, blokes, we could debate philosophy until the heavens burn down. Let's vote. All in favor of Hyperion, raise your bleeding hands. 10 in favor, 2 oppose. Do you take bow to the mandate of the majority?
Yes,
though I still have my reservations.
I'm sorry. You'll have to accept my resignation.
Kyle, wait! I respect your views, even if I don't agree with them, but please, remain on with us just a little while longer. Help us work out the transition. As president, you could...
I am sorry. But you do as you must, and I will do as I must. Dr. Spectrum then suggests that they present a new image of themselves to the public. He suggests that they go on television and unmask to announce their plans. Hyperion agrees with this and instructs everyone to return to their loved ones and family and friends and give them an advanced warning of what they plan to do. Then they all set off into the night. This episode is brought to you by My Comics, specifically the Custodians Agents of Cross, which I am serializing over on my Patreon, patreon.com/Smokey's videos. It's over 60 pages of pure comics for only $15, but you can see it serialized weekly over on my Patreon for as little as $2. It is a love letter to the Silver Age filled with fun characters, crazy stories, and even fake advertisements. I'm also serializing serializing each issue of Destructo Boy, a fun sci-fi zany epic that is fit for the whole family and follows a little robot on a giant space station as he battles crime, villainy, and giant monsters and whatever threats should arise to his home. Each weekly serialized post includes commentary and annotations on the comic. I am also posting commentary tracks for the MCU, the Snyderverse, and any movies in general over at Pop Pop Popcorn, which I will be posting a audio commentary track of any movie and a follow-up discussion video. There's also behind-the-scenes progress posts of the Custodians as I am working on it, original art, and much more. Later, in Cosmopolis, New Troy, the entire city is experiencing a blackout for the third day in a row. Hyperion flies to the apartment of his girlfriend, Lonnie Latimer, who accidentally shoots him. She realizes it's him and runs up and asks what the hell is happening. Then Hyperion unmasks to reveal that he is actually mild-mannered Mark Milton. He informs her of the Squadron's plans and that because he is an alien, they are genetically impossible to mate. And he's like, I'm sorry if I was leading you on, but it's not gonna happen. I know you wanted to have kids, but I'm not the guy. And she gets very angry and asks him to leave. Speeding to the suburbs of Mechanopolis, the Wizard arrives at his home and heads down to the basement where he opens the panic room and finds his wife Madeline and their child. In Atomic City, Herculania, Dr. Spectrum flies to his trailer, cracks open a beer with the light spectrum, and phones up a booty call. In Mayflower, Fredonia, Captain Hawk arrives to find his mother alone in their manor, and he learns that his father, the former hero called American Eagle, died a week ago when they were unable to get his heart medication. In Capital City, Magellan, Zarda returns to her apartment where she finds her husband Howard Shelton. They've been together for 40 years, ever since she rescued him from his sinking ship. 30 miles off the coast of Kirkgard, Amphibian meets up with some dolphin friends of his, and they like gossip and complain about the land world. In Franklin Town, New Babylon, Lady Lark and Golden Archer return to their apartment but discover it has been trashed and looted. Archer finds a dead body lying against their sofa, but he keeps that discovery to himself. In Motor City, Wyandotte, Nuke, aka Albert Gaines, arrives at the hospital where his parents reside due to their terminal cancer. Albert nearly tells them that he's actually the superhero called Nuke and member of the Squadron Supreme, but he holds back, not wanting to drop a bomb like that in their condition. He then hugs them and tells them that nothing's really happening in the world, and then his mother says that he should visit his little brother while he's in town. In Palmerston, New Troy, Arcana arrives at a clearing in the middle of the forest. She opens a magical doorway and inside finds her husband and 3 children and their talking cat. 25 miles northeast of Maglow, Moorland, Tom Thumb arrives at the satellite base. He silently flies inside, hoping that who he's looking for is safe. Eventually, he gets the power restored and activates the satellite's primary computer, Ada! That's right! Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans, rejoice! This is the origin of Ada. If you've watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you'll recognize her as being played by Mallory Jansen, one of the best villains of one of the best Marvel shows, originated in one of Marvel's best comics. Is it really that surprising? I would also like to point out that I have covered the comic origins of the creator of the MCU Ada, Holden Radcliffe's origin in Machine Teen. Check that one out. It's a fun video. And finally, in a tunnel beneath the streets of Cosmopolis, New Troy, Nighthawk drives his car into his home's subterranean base and makes his way into his mansion. And then he watches the protesters outside the fences for a few minutes before he phones his presidential aide and informs him that he plans on making a televised address to the nation. Then he changes into a new costume and begins planning the speech when Hyperion knocks on the window. He climbs inside and says that he wants to talk. Just the two of them. Hyperion tells Nighthawk of the Squadron's plans and suggests that they make a joint address. He tells Kyle that if it wasn't for Overmind, he would have easily gone down in history as the greatest president since Lincoln, and desperately tries to get Kyle to change his mind regarding the matter. But Nighthawk won't have it. Hyperion tells Kyle that he's still his friend, and if Kyle ever needs to talk or wants to talk to him for any reason, to just reach out. And as he does so, he attempts to put a hand on his friend's shoulder, but Kyle walks away silently, and Hyperion soars back into the night sky. Lincoln, the great emancipator.
the Squadron seeks to enslave the people of the world for their Utopia program, maybe the world will need a new emancipator. I'll bet Hyperion has forgotten all about this room. Argonite, the one radioactive isotope that Hyperion isn't immune to. Thumb hoped to discover why it was so lethal to Hyperion and find a way to immunize him. Never succeeded. I've got a different use for it. Without Hyperion, the Squadron would not have the raw power to bring about the Utopia program. A single bullet made of Argonite would be enough to kill him. But, God, do I have the guts to kill my best friend in order to keep the world free? It shouldn't take long to carve the bullet. My fellow Americans and peoples of the world, it is with a heavy heart that I come before you. The regrettable situation in the world today is at least in part my fault, as well as the fault of those government, military, and industrial leaders who are my aides. No explanation I can offer could ever possibly justify or condone the loss of life and disruption of world peace that recent foreign and domestic policies initiated by this administration have caused. In light of this, I've asked for the resignations of my entire cabinet. I have discharged all high-ranking Pentagon personnel. I will make public the names of all congressmen who have supported my policies. And lastly, I hereby resign as President of the United States of America. I profoundly regret what has happened, and I only hope that the next administration can undo the damage caused by this administration. I now turn you over to Hyperion of the Squadron Supreme. Thank you, Mr. President. Citizens of America and all nations, do not panic. We, the Squadron Supreme of America, hereby assume supreme authority in all matters pertaining to world security and survival for the duration of this critical transition back to peacetime. Although the Squadron itself was duped into participating in some of the activities initiated by the current administration, we were instrumental in bringing the government to its senses. You may recall that I myself was labeled a traitor by the current administration for refusing to support its policies. But that is all behind us now. What is ahead is the difficult task of reconstructing our society, our world, to what it was before. But we cannot stop there. We must prevent a situation like the one we were in from ever happening again. In exchange for your utmost cooperation and support, we, the Squadron Supreme, hereby vow to you to solve all the problems known to men and women of all nations, not just brought on in recent days, but those known to mankind since time immemorial. We vow to eliminate hunger, poverty, war, crime, disease, pollution, and oppression within 1 year from tonight. If we cannot do so in that time period, we will voluntarily give up any and all authority hereby invested in us. We are the world's best hope. As a gesture of the openness and sincerity by which we take this pledge to you, we would like to shed our masks. And it is with this act, I hope you will all join us in ushering in a new age of trust and friendship and unity for all the earth.
Released in 1985, written by Mark Grunwald with pencils by Bob Hall, inks by John Beatty, and colors by Christy Scheel. This is Squadron Supreme number 2, A Small Sacrifice. Previously on Squadron Supreme! The book begins at the edge of the stratosphere as Hyperion, with his awesome might, struggles with halting the crashing 347-ton Squadron satellite base.
There it is. The finest man-made object ever put into the sky. The satellite headquarters of the Squadron Supreme. Now a dilapidated husk. If only we had gotten through it a bit sooner. We might have been able to correct its decaying orbit. Maybe it was meant to come crashing down on our heads.
The squadron arrive at their temporary base, and later, after everyone is situated, they begin their emergency meeting. The heroes note that the world they once protected is in utter shambles, and it's their fault. Nuke argues that they had nothing to do with it, since they were controlled by the Overmind, but Wizard points out that, to the people, especially the American people, it doesn't matter what strange tale they tell of an alternate universe mind-controlling alien villain. They still failed to protect the world. The United States government, the American system, myself as a president, how can we say it was all a mistake? That we were under some alien's control and expect them to believe us or forgive us? We can't.
Defeatist talk will get us nowhere, Kyle. It is deeds, not words, that will restore our credibility and save the world in the process.
We should not just randomly stop supercriminals, an alien invader, or a natural disaster and leave the rest of the world's problems unaddressed. Problems which inflict the majority of mankind with suffering and death. We should actively pursue solutions to all the world's problems. Abolish war and crime, eliminate poverty and hunger, establish equality among all peoples, clean the environment, cure diseases.
How meaningful will a utopia be if it's a gift and not something that has been earned by mankind's own labors? And what if they don't accept it? Will you force them to take it?
If there's a way to save countless lives who would have been lost to all of these afflictions, and we don't try to implement it, what kind of heroes would we be? Argonite, the one radioactive isotope that Hyperion isn't immune to. Thumb hoped to discover why it was so lethal to Hyperion and find a way to immunize him. Never succeeded. I've got a different use for it. Without Hyperion, the Squadron would not have the raw power to bring about the Utopia program. A single bullet made of Argonite would be enough to kill him. But, God, do I have the guts to kill my best friend in order to keep the world free? It shouldn't take long to carve the bullet.
My fellow Americans and peoples of the world, I hereby resign as President of the United States of America. I now turn you over to Hyperion of the Squadron Supreme. Thank you, Mr. President. Citizens of America and all nations, do not panic. We, the Squadron Supreme of America, hereby assume supreme authority in all matters pertaining to world security and survival. In exchange for your utmost cooperation and support, we, the Squadron Supreme, hereby vow to you to solve all the problems known to men and women of all nations, not just brought on in recent days, but those known to mankind since time immemorial. We vow to eliminate hunger, poverty, war, crime, disease, pollution, and oppression within 1 year from tonight. If we cannot do so in that time period, we will voluntarily give up any and all authority hereby invested in us. We are the world's best hope. The book begins high above the city of Sigmund. Dr. Spectrum uses his power prism to carry thousands of boxes of food rations along with Tom Thumb and the Golden Archer. They drop down into a big parking lot where thousands of residents are waiting, and the heroes then just sort of stand aside as people begin loading up on rations and dispersing them among the community. The mayor of the city rocks up to personally thank them for everything the squadron is doing and asks if they could say a few words to the citizens. So the mayor, Archer, Doc, and Tom Thumb climb onto the back of a flatbed truck as the mayor announces the 3 mighty members of the Squadron Supreme of America and hands over his megaphone.
Thank you, Mayor. This emergency food distribution program we've been on for the past few weeks will soon be at an end. The nation's roads have finally been cleared and the food industry is back on track. Thank you all for your patience. Yeah, same goes for me. Once we get this country back on its feet, I promise you we're gonna make America better than ever.
All yours, Mr. Mayor. The mayor then continues his speech when 3 men jump on the truck and take him hostage. They order the super fascists to put down their weapons, and Archer and Dr. Spectrum reluctantly comply. The ringleader reveals that they are a part of a group called Freedom Force, and they have deemed that due to the Squadron Supreme's, crimes against humanity that happened before this series, they are sentenced to death. More agents of the Freedom Force reveal themselves, and they corral the trio off the truck and out into the open, where they prepare to execute the would-be tyrants. The leader announces that Freedom Force will not rest until all of the Squadron Supreme pays for their crimes. And now that they have Dr. Spectrum's power prism, they can ensure retribution. But then the prism comes to life, striking through the gun of the ringleader and flying back into Dr. Spectrum's hands. Golden Archer begins launching arrows by hand at the surprised Freedom Force members as Spectrum captures their weapons in spheres of pure light. The duo quickly apprehend the 10 men as Tom Thumb sulks and watches on. Several hours later, in southern Winnebago, again, it's based off of the DC comics, obviously, so there's just... the closest thing we really have to the real world is the fact that the country's called the United States of America. Everything else, who knows where the fuck these places are? It's not like they ever made a map showing the Squadron Supreme's Earth version of the United States. Although it would be fun to try and figure out, based on what everything looks like, where it is. We know Capital City, New Troy, and another one that's like kind of New Jersey. Those are pretty obvious. Capital City is DC, you know. But these other ones, where the fuck is southern Winnebago? I imagine it's up north somewhere, right? Anyway, Nuke and Whizzer race down the streets when Nuke breaks off, telling Whizzer that he has some personal matters to attend to. Whizzer allows it, and he continues racing away. And he just kind of figures that Nuke is too much of like a young teenage rebel to really open up to any issues that he might have to a straight-laced guy like the Whizzer. Later, outside of Motor City, Albert Gaines, aka Nuke, arrives at the hospital where his mother and father are inpatients. He greets them softly and reluctantly, and asks how they are. And his mother, looking at her son from gaunt, sunken eyes, tells him that she and his father don't have much time left. Albert again asks them what's wrong, what happened to him. And his father finally reveals that the doctors claim that they have radiation poisoning. Tonight's meeting is hereby called to order. Hyperion presiding. I notice that Nuke isn't here yet. Let's begin as usual with progress reports on the day's assignments. I'm pleased to announce that as of noon today, the U.S. Mint is back in operation and the banks are reopening on Wednesday.
75% of the food processing plants in the Northeast are back in business. Arcana and I are going out to the West Coast tomorrow.
Nuke and I have made sure all the internment camps were evacuated and that food was delivered to the nation's prisons. I calculate that 95% of all electrical and natural gas power has been restored. The rest will be operational by the end of the week. My group ran into a little problem with some gun-toting reactionaries today. Seems like they don't forgive us for our involvement in the dark days.
As soon as the food crisis is over, we've got to begin the disarmament program.
I recommend that we be on the lookout for new members to bolster our ranks. There's still so much to do, and...
Greetings, Squadron. I have returned.
Scarlet Centurion!
You have beaten me the last 3 times I've tried to conquer your primitive era. This time, with your world tottering on the brink of collapse, You shall not prevail. I have an army of 10,000 of my finest temporal warriors preparing to enter your era.
Listen to me, Centurion. We've always let you retreat to your own time when your pitiful campaigns have failed. But this time, we won't. If you dare attack us now, I swear by all my ancestors, I will kill you.
Bah! You take all the pleasure out of conquest. Very well. I will call back my legions. I'd rather not conquer a world already in ruin.
Well, with that out of the way, the squadron just continue with their meeting. Also, Captain Hawk has now rebranded himself as Blue Eagle. It's to, remember his father, who was the original, Eagle or Blue Eagle or whatever during World War II or something. Anyway, he brings up the fact that their ex-president and former member of the Squadron Supreme, Kyle Richmond, has not been heard of ever since. Hyperion informs them that Nighthawk's mansion has seemingly been abandoned for the past month. Since their last meeting in Washington, D.C., he hasn't seen or heard a thing from his old friend. And with that, the meeting is adjourned, and Doc Spectrum informs everyone that tonight is poker night. Everyone either joins in or watches the poker game commence. Hyperion and Zarda, the Power Princess, have a discussion regarding the new president-elect, Gardner, and no one notices Tom Thumb as he gets out of his seat and leaves the room. Later in the headquarters, Tom arrives in his lab/workshop, lamenting being the odd man out once again. He greets Ada, who excitedly tells him that she missed him today and asks how the assignments went. He says it was interesting, but he didn't really get to do much other than just sit around and watch. Then he asks her to load up the programs he has plans on working on tonight. Several hours later, Tom is the only member awake as he works away in his lab. And suddenly Nuke appears and sheepishly knocks on the doorway, asking if it's possible that his energy level could be increasing. Tom leads him over to the energy analyzer that he constructed and instructs Nuke to place his hands inside and let it rip. Ada runs a diagnostic and compares it to the past energy readings for Nuke. And she discovers that there has been a net increase of 52%. Nuke asks if that means that his radioactivity has also increased. Tom says that it unquestionably has. Nuke then asks if he could be putting anyone in danger if he's giving off radiation when he's not consciously trying to.
Well, your body's rad level has definitely crossed into the toxic range. But I'd calculate a person would have to spend at least 5 hours a day alongside you for a very long period of time in order to be in any real danger of radiation poisoning. I could whip up a radiation containment suit.
Good idea. Tom, how much do you know about cancer?
Why do you ask?
Can I trust you, Tom? Not to tell the others?
Yeah, of course, son.
It's my folks. They're in the hospital. That's why I missed the meeting. They're suffering from cancer, Tom. Radiation poisoning, it's according to the doctors. I think it's my fault. I still live at home. I don't have a lot of friends. I'm busy with my job and Squadron. And I'm around my folks all the time. And they don't even know I'm Nuke. I never told them. And now they're gonna die because of me. And now they're gonna die because of me.
Is there anything I can do, Nuke?
Yes, please. You're the smartest guy in the world, Tom. If there's anyone who can do it, it's you.
Do what?
Find a cure for cancer.
Find a cure for cancer? Yeah, I can try. That's really all I can...
Thank you, Tom, thank you. I'll never forgive this, thank you so much. I'll leave you to it. My folks, they don't have a lot of time left. If something happened to my folks, I don't know what I'd do. Thank you, Tom. Nuke then leaves, and Tom wonders to Ada what the hell he just agreed to. And she quickly replies that he promised something that pretty much everybody says is impossible. Tom slams his fist into the table before him and shouts that it can't be impossible. He'll find a way. Then he asks her to find all available cancer research data. Many hours later, after the sun has risen, Hyperion finds Tom asleep at his console. He tells Tom that they're having morning roll call soon, and Tom needs to eat because they've got quite a long day before him. Tom asks if he could take himself off of the field work due to the amount of projects he's gonna have to be working on, and Hyperion tells him of course he can. After all, Tom is their top brain. He knows where to make himself more useful than anyone else does. Tom then makes himself some coffee and instructs Ada to prevent him from falling asleep again. Later that morning, at the George Orwell Bridge between New Wesley and New Troy, Blue Eagle, Lady Lark, and Nuke soar through the sky in search of any mobs that may attempt to waylay the convoys of food heading to Cosmopolis. Then Nuke sends off a trouble signal. A gigantic mob of people flood into the street and storm the supply trucks. Lady Lark orders Nuke and Blue Eagle to clear the area before she uses her sonic voice to order the mob to stand down and wait to pick up rations at Central Park. It does not work, and Nuke lets out his anger on the starving citizens as the mobs run away in panic, stampeding over one another. And Lady Lark, realizing that Nuke has gone way overboard, uses her sonic blast to incapacitate him, and he's caught by Blue Eagle, who demands to know what the fuck Nuke just did. Nuke apologizes for getting carried away and begs Eagle not to report him to Hyperion. Later at the evening meeting, Hyperion notes that the presidential meetup went very well, and they have another one scheduled for next week. Nuke thinks how lucky he is that Eagle and Lark didn't bring up his outburst, and the meeting is called to an end. And then Nuke finds Tom. The two head to Tom's lab, where he reveals the radiation containment suit. Nuke takes the suit and then asks about the cancer cure. Tom informs him that their primary concern right now is prevention, to ensure Nuke doesn't contaminate anybody else. And then Tom climbs up onto his work stool and tells the young man that he can now devote his full time to search for the cure. And later that night, as Nuke prepares to test flight his new suit, Lady Lark and the others play charades in the lounge room. And Tom Thumb locks his door to ensure there are no disturbances, and then has Ada run a tissue sample on himself to have some undiseased cells to compare to Nuke's parents. Days pass as Tom works relentlessly, living off of stimulants and the occasional ration bar, poring over reams of data, conducting exhaustive tests, and finally, 8 days later, he realizes it truly is impossible. Nuke then arrives and tells Tom that his parents have taken a turn for the worse. Tom angrily tells him that he's almost to a breakthrough. He just needs more time. Time is his greatest enemy. And then it hits him. He heads down to the storage room where they keep the salvaged equipment from the old satellite base, and inside a crate he locates a transtemporal soma projector that he invented. He instructs Ada to process some chronal coordinates, places the helmet atop his head, and tells her that he's about to make a deal with the devil. Then Tom is ruptured through the space-time continuum and travels faster than the flow of time itself until he appears 5 feet in the air inside the throne room of the Emperor of the 40th century, Scarlet Centurion. Tom falls to the ground, and Scarlet Centurion recognizes him as none other than one of his ancient foes, Tom Thumb. Tom shouts out that he wants words alone with the Emperor of Time. Scarlet Centurion, intrigued, orders everyone to leave.
Now, what, pray tell, can I do for you, small one?
I've come to make a bargain.
Have you now?
In one of your many campaigns against the Squadron, I remember your saying that one of the reasons why you attacked us is because you ran out of challenges here in your home century.
That is correct.
You said you conquered everything, even disease. Is that true? You've cured every disease? Even cancer?
Decades ago.
I want it, Centurion. Your cure for cancer. I'm willing to give you anything for it. Even my life.
Anything? This must mean a great deal to you. Let me have someone fetch what it is you want so we can see what it is you are bargaining for. And let me tell you a little something about my panacea potion. It was developed by my research team at my request some time ago. To my knowledge, I'm the only being to possess it for the next 40-odd centuries. If you decide not to deal with me, I could not begin to guess where you might look elsewhere for such a prize. The panacea potion cures all diseases known to man. All failings of the flesh and bone, including the ravages of age. With it, I have made my subjects functionally immortal. It is an object of great worth. But I am a humanitarian, and I am willing to share my gift with you, Tom Thumb. In return for a small sample of the Panacea Potion, I want you to take something to your esteemed leader, Hyperion, Aragonite, the oh-so-rare substance to which Hyperion is vulnerable.
I won't kill Hyperion for you!
All I want is for you to sprinkle the contents of the capsule in his food. This minute amount won't kill him. Just weaken him a little. Just enough to allow his utter defeat at my hands.
I can't... If he fell, you'd try to conquer the whole world!
Perhaps. But consider this. If you introduce the Panacea Potion to your world 2,000 years before mine, how many billions of lives would you be saving, Tom? How many billions of people would not know death? Billions of lives against a mere one. Such a great gift, such a small sacrifice.
I can't do it. I can't betray my only friends like that. Damn you!
You pathetic little man.
Tom, you're back. Why are you crying?
I failed, Ada. God help me. It was my last hope and I couldn't do it. I failed.
Tom? You awake?
Nuke, I'm glad you're here. I have to tell you, I can't cure cancer. I've tried. You have to believe how much I've tried.
You little creep! You lied to me! I counted on you and you failed, and when my parents die, it'll be your fault, not mine! When they do, I'll make sure you pay for it!
I'm sorry, Nuke. Truly sorry. We're supposed to be heroes, and heroes don't betray each other for any reason. If it's any consolation, your parents won't be dying alone. Thanks to all those tests I ran on myself, I learned something new. I'm dying of cancer, too.
Released in 1985, written by Mark Grunwald with pencils by Bob Hall, inks by John Beatty, and colors by Christy Shiel. This is Squadron Supreme 3, Showdown.
I'm Power Princess of the Squadron Supreme. If I'd been anyone else, I'd be dead right now. But not everyone is as strong or as fast as me. But everyone deserves to be free from the fears of guns and other lethal weapons as I am. That's why the Squadron Supreme, in conjunction with the new political administration, has been hard at work finding ways to make the world a safer place. Already we have begun a program that by December will replace all guns and armaments used by the U.S. military and the nation's law enforcement agencies with non-lethal substitutes. But that alone is not enough. We need your cooperation to help America kick the gun habit.
That's a wrap. Great job, Power Princess. Everyone on set relaxes, and as Zarda, aka Power Princess, leans over to help one of the stuntmen playing a soldier from the ground, the scumbag that is Dr. Spectrum takes a look at her and thinks to himself that Zarda has been taking herself a bit too seriously recently. Then he uses his power prism to control a beam of focused light across the room, tearing her outfit straps, causing her to flash everyone that's in front of her. Everyone in the studio stands in awkward silence as Doc Spectrum is like, come on, that was hilarious. You know, he's one of those guys. Zarda marches over, lifts him up with one of her Amazonian hands. Oh, to be hoisted aloft single-handedly by a tall, muscular woman. Anyway, she says that while she and her fellow Utopians were taught that the body is a temple of the soul and modesty was something unnatural, she clearly understands that Spectrum's actions were meant to publicly ridicule her, so she rips off his dumb cape and drapes it over herself as she says that he will one day regret his irresponsibility. Then she enters the broadcast room and meets the new president, President Jules Gardner, an amalgamation, clearly from the name of Julius Schwartz and Gardner Fox, two huge names in DC comics and comic history, really the kind of almost architects of the Silver Age in a way. And he mostly does resemble Gardner Fox. And just really hammers home the fact how much of a Justice League DC fan Mark Gruenwald was. The president tells her that he's still uncertain of how the disarmament program will play out, what with the right to bear arms in the Constitution and the chaos of the previous administration, and he asks if she thinks it'll actually help stem lawlessness. And Zarda explains that people are the ones who kill, not guns. But the program will make it much harder for people to kill. And this is just phase 1 of their crime prevention program. We'll see where it goes pretty soon. Later, at the temporary Squadron Supreme headquarters at the Wrangley mountain range of Moorland, Dr. Spectrum recounts the look on Zarda's face as he and Golden Archer snicker and laugh, and he also explains that the cameras were still filming, and he bribed a member of the crew to send him a tape. As the Whizzer, not at all entertained by Doc Spectrum's sexual harassment, uncomfortably tells him that he went too far. Golden Archer tells the Whizzer to stuff it as Power Princess silently marches down the corridor and Spectrum and Archer make snide remarks at her. Later during the Squadron's meeting, Zarda reports her activities, not reporting what Spectrum did to her. Hyperion then announces that every gun and ammunition factory in America has been shut down. Golden Archer and Lady Lark discuss their appearance in Angelopolis, and eventually, after the rest of the reports are in, Hyperion brings up Nuke. Whizzer offers up his services as the world's fastest man to hunt down where their missing cohort is, but then Power Princess volunteers Dr. Spectrum. Since he and Nuke have been like buddies in the past, they've gone out on the town drinking and just hanging out after work essentially, and he'd have a better idea of knowing where Nuke would be. Spectrum corrects her by saying that he and the kid only went out drinking once or twice, but he stopped because Nuke was just too annoying. Then he realizes that Hyperion isn't gonna let him out of this, so he reluctantly agrees. And later, the meeting is adjourned and Tom Thumb comes up to Spectrum and explains the whole situation with Nuke's parents, and suggests that Doc check out the hospitals. So later, Spectrum soars across the night sky to Motor City, Wyandotte, hoping that he can find the little punk kid and get this over with quickly. He soars through Motor City, heading to the suburbs that he vaguely remembers Nuke showing him when they stopped by his home one night. And on his way, he discovers a massive, glowing crater in the middle of a field. Meanwhile, back at Squadron HQ, the members all sleep in their co-ed dormitory, and yes, the amphibian does sleep in a giant tank of water when he's on land. Everyone except for Whizzer is asleep, because he has to put himself into a hypo-metabolic trance to suppress his extreme metabolism. And then the alarm blares off, calling for himself, Amphibian, and Arcana. They make their way to the control room, and Tom Thumb alerts the trio that a gun factory in Westinger, which looks to be this world's equivalent of Texas, is being raided by looters. Meanwhile, Dr. Spectrum arrives at a hospital. He introduces himself to the cute girl at the front desk and explains that he's looking for Gilbert and Florence Gaines. She looks them up in the system, and unfortunately tells him that they passed away last month on June 18th and the 21st. Spectrum then thanks her and leaves. Realizing that Nuke has been in mourning this whole time, Doc then flies to the address of Nuke's parents. Meanwhile, in the night sky near the Olmsted border of Westinger, the trio of Squadroneers race through the sky for Alamo Town. They arrive at the factory and discover the crowd out in full force. Whizzer and Arcana tell Amphibian, you know, the water guy in the middle of not Texas, to find a place to park their pseudo-fantastic car. And as the duo leap off the vehicle and plummet through the air, guided by Arcana's magic, Whizzer realizes that this may have not been a great idea. Because then the rioters start shooting at them. And then we get this incredible panel which just perfectly shows the wizard activating his hyper-accelerated senses as he watches the bullets slow to a near halt. It's so insanely well done. This panel just expertly depicts the actual reduction of time in a comic, in a 2D medium. It's like the Quicksilver scene from Days of Future Past. I love this panel. Wizard is able to block or move each bullet's trajectory, and as Arcana lands them, he tells her that he'll be back before realizing that because he's going so fast, all she or anyone nearby is going to hear is just a high-pitched bleep that just goes by real fast. Then he whizzes through the nearby mob, and Arcana uses her abilities to cause a gust of magical wind to relinquish every firearm. Then the wizard does his thing and collects every weapon and begins disassembling them into their most minor of pieces. This episode is brought to you by my Patreon and my comics, Destructo Boy and the Custodians Agents of Cross. Each issue of the Custodians Agents of Cross is over 60 pages of pure comics, written, illustrated, colored, lettered, designed. Everything you see in these books was created entirely by myself. And this asks the all-important question, what if the only heroes that can save the world are an intelligent baboon, a girl who controls fire, the world's smartest man with the power of elasticity only in his right arm, and a four-armed werewolf? And this just follows their exploits. Like I said, it is a love letter to the 60s, Silver Age, and to all of comics in general. As you'll see as the series progresses to its 6th and final issue. This entire first issue, however, is posted in its entirety on my Patreon, patreon.com/Smokey's videos, where you can read the entire thing for only $2. Normally this book, I sell it for $15, which already is a far better deal than anything you're getting from Marvel or DC these days. But as little as $2 a month, you can get access to the entire issue. And I am serializing issue 2 as we speak. But that's not all, because I also have my sci-fi, zany, just crazy fun series, fun for the whole family, all-age comic, Destructo Boy. Destructo Boy follows this little robot guy right here as he lives on a giant space station in the far-flung future, and he battles crime, giant robots, giant monsters, and evil conquerors from space such as Grimlax the Astro Knight. Each of these issues just introduces as much zany sci-fi craziness as I could fit into these books. They're being serialized on my Patreon as I speak as well, and you can pick up all 5 issues on my Etsy shop, blaketwild.etsy.com. Back outside of Motor City, Spectrum meets Nuke's younger brother, Scotty, who was left in a neighbor's care after his parents were taken to the hospital. Scotty has the time of his life as he fawns over meeting a real member of the Squadron Supreme, and as he explains that while he does have a complete set of Squadron action figures, he has 2 Dr. Spectrum action figures, because he is his favorite. Oh, Scotty, if only you knew. This is like the boys before the boys. Spectrum then tells him that he's looking for his brother Nuke, and Scotty says that he may have an idea of where his older brother Al is, but he wants to fly with Dr. Spectrum to look for him. So Doc forms a little rocket for Scotty to ride in, and they head to a cemetery. And Scotty confusingly makes his way through the dark cemetery, which the coloring on this is not the best. It really just, I can't remember what it looks like in the original issue, if it's properly colored like a Knight's scene or not. I don't think it is, but this, like, sort of digital upgraded recoloring, it looks like it's the middle of the goddamn day. It's supposed to be in the middle of the night. Anyway, Scotty confusingly makes his way through the dark cemetery until they spot Nuke, sitting before the Gaines plot. And this rendition of Nuke in this one panel looks so much like 90s, 2000s Frank Miller. I love it. And this was 1984. This was like right when Miller would be doing Ronin. So is Bob Hall, was he seeing what Frank Miller was doing in Ronin and digging that and decided to add a bit and piece here and there? Because there's like 1 or 2 other panels in this book that look distinctly Miller. But I love this because it just looks so much like that late sort of period Frank Miller that I unironically love. Anyway, Scotty starts calling out to his brother in excitement when Nuke shouts at Spectrum for bringing his brother into this. And Spectrum immediately notices that Nuke ain't looking so good. Why are you butting into my life? You don't care about me. None of you did. You're one of the Squadron Supreme. We take care of our own. Like hell you do. I don't want your pity, Spectrum. It's all your fault this happened. Kid, what the hell are you talking about? Tom Thumb! He had the ability to save them, but that goddamn midget refused. He killed them. Now take Scotty home and leave me alone. Whoa, hey, chill out, Nuki. I'm here to help you. Come on. Let's go get a beer like this. I've had it with you and your phony crap. Whoa! Hold it. I was willing to let your crazy slide, kid. I know you've been through a lot, but now you're threatening folks and trashing the place? I don't care! I'm gonna kill that dwarf before you or anyone else stops me! Spectrum prepares to fly after Nuke, but then realizes that he has to return Scotty home. He tells the young boy that he'll make sure that his brother doesn't hurt himself or anyone else, and then he soars away. 15 minutes later, he finally finds Nuke soaring across the night sky like a fireball, and Spectrum narrowly encases him with a power bubble. But Nuke destroys it in another Frank Miller-esque panel. If you keep messing with me, I'll waste you too, old man. Old man? What's the matter, Smack? You thought one arm was something? Dig this! Stop fighting me, Nuke! Concentrate. Make the spear sticky. Come on! Yeah! Yeah, I think I did it. I don't feel the force of his blasts anymore. He's trying to fake me out or something. Oh god, he's not faking, and if he is, he's doing a great job at it. Hell, is he even breathing? Did he burn up all the air inside the bubble? Nuke, no, come on. Come on, don't do this. Breathe, Nuke, please, breathe. Wake up, kid. Come on, Albert. Come on, hey, come on, wake up. Oh god. Oh god, I killed him. I didn't mean that. Well, that's. Oh, what's the use? Who's ever gonna believe that this was actually an accident? Maybe if I just leave him somewhere. Tell the squadron I couldn't find him. God damn it, I never lived with myself if I did that. I'm gonna have to own up to this. Oh, Christ. Later, Spectrum returns to find Hyperion, Zarda, and Tom. He places Nuke's body on their meeting table and wrenches out that he killed him. Spectrum falls to the ground, saying that he didn't mean it. But Nuke had truly gone off the deep end and was threatening to kill Tom and anyone else who tried to stop him. Zarda then embraces him and says that they know he didn't mean for this to be the outcome. And 2 days later, Spectrum arrives to find Scotty playing with his squadron toys. Scotty says that he got a new action figure set to replace his old worn-out ones. And then Dr. Spectrum says that he needs to tell him something about his brother. And Scotty asks if he died fighting a supervillain. And Dr. Spectrum has to explain that Albert Gaines died fighting him, a fellow superhero. And Spectrum used too much force trying to stop him. Scotty says that his brother was acting all weird and probably had it coming and that he wasn't a very good superhero. But Spectrum says that Albert was a good hero. The end. Released in 1985, written by Mark Grunwald with pencils by Bob Hall, inks by John Beatty, and colors by Christy Shiel. This is Squadron Supreme 4, Change of Heart. Previously on Squadron Supreme. In exchange for your utmost cooperation and support, we, the Squadron Supreme, hereby vow to you to solve all the problems known to men and women of all nations, not just brought on in recent days, but those known to mankind since time immemorial. Lady Lark and Golden Archer return to their apartment but discover it has been trashed and looted. Archer finds a dead body lying against their sofa, but he keeps that discovery to himself. Hyperion then announces that every gun and ammunition factory in America has been shut down. Golden Archer and Lady Lark discuss their appearance in Angelopolis. Blue Eagle, Lady Lark, and Nuke soar through the sky in search of any mobs that may attempt to waylay the convoys of food heading to Cosmopolis. Then Nuke sends off a trouble signal. A gigantic mob of people flood into the street and storm the supply trucks. Lady Lark orders Nuke and Blue Eagle to clear the area before she uses her sonic voice to order the mob to stand down and wait to pick up rations at Central Park. It does not work, and Nuke lets out his anger on the starving citizens as the mobs run away in panic.
Why are you butting into my life? You don't care about me, none of you did!
You're one of the Squadron Supreme, we take care of our own.
Like hell you do! I don't want your pity, Spectrum! It's all your fault this happened!
Oh god, oh god, oh god, I killed him. I didn't mean that. That's. Oh, what's the use? Who's ever gonna believe that this was actually an accident? The book begins with Blue Eagle fully outfitted with a brand new costume and equipment as he smashes through the window of a paramilitary force who have overtaken a military base. Then the sonic scream of Lady Lark smashes down the doors as she tears militiamen down, and Blue Eagle anchors a device to the floor. Then Lady Lark's bionically augmented vocal cords are cast into it, and the machine is triggered into stimulating the sleep centers in the brains of everyone within the building. Blue Eagle flies her up to the rooftop, and then she also realizes at this point that she really is starting to have some feelings about Blue Eagle that she did not have before. Meanwhile, on the ground, the Wizard, Amphibian, and Power Princess make their way through the infantry. Meanwhile, Arcana and Golden Archer are soaring overhead until a soldier shoots down their aircraft with a rocket launcher. Arcana uses her magical powers to save herself and the Golden Archer, but just barely. He slams into a building and onto the ground and is shot when it's revealed that Tom Thumb has designed personal force field belts for each of the members. Golden Archer runs for cover and launches a smoke screen arrow, unaware that a soldier is racing towards him. Archer is slammed with the butt of a rifle, and as the man opens fire, the Wizard steals the rifle out of his hands, and I guess stops the bullets, like Quicksilver in Days of Future Past. Not long later, the squad make their way to the command center and discover the general of this rebellion, and Power Princess orders him to command his men to stand down. And then Hyperion just fucking destroys the place. Later, every weapon and rifle are collected as the members of the failed insurrection are all arrested. Hyperion and Power Princess discuss what to do with the rebels when Wizard arrives to announce that he and Golden Archer are about to depart to go visit Dr. Spectrum. Archer says farewell to his long-term partner, Lady Lark, and then the two fly away in one of their 3 remaining aircrafts, now that the other one got decimated. An hour later, in Hegeltown, Dantagiana. Fuck me, man. I guess that's how it's pronounced. The duo find Dr. Spectrum hard at work in a factory smelting down confiscated weapons. He has been just having a rough time since Nuke died, and he just still does not feel like he's ready or even capable of combat assignments, let alone even just going out into the field and, you know, being a superhero to their Utopia project that they're instituting over this next year. So he just has no ability to be around other people right now, and they just kind of decided to put him to work here, smelting all of the confiscated weapons. Golden Archer tells him to relax. It's been well over a month since that all happened, and he has to forgive himself already. Spectrum says that he's not sure if he'll ever really get over it, but for the time being, he's perfectly fine working right here. And then he invites the two of them to Nuke's grave. And Wizard says that he can't because he has a family and he has to go visit his wife. And Golden Archer is then left to awkwardly and very reluctantly agree to go along to a cemetery. Later at the Gaines family plots, Spectrum leaves flowers for the family. You know, Wyatt, I never used to think of death very much. Even in my astronaut days, floating in the void with my life depending on 100 pounds of hardware, I lived for the danger. I was in space because there was just not enough adventure for me on Earth. And once I actually got all the excitement I could ask for, my capsule encountered a crippled alien starship. With no more thought than most people give to crossing the street, I flew in and explored it, and
There I found the sole occupant, and it turned out he was alive and benevolent. In gratitude for rescuing him, he gave me the power prism. It was this energy synthesizer device that his people had created. During his brief stay here on Earth, the alien became known as the Skrull, which was apparently the name of his race. And I became known as Dr. Spectrum. If I was fearless and adventure-loving before, you can imagine what using the power prism did for me. Fighting super baddies like Quagmire, creating giant props out of thin air, flying around every day. And then, when Nuke flipped, it wouldn't have happened like it have did if I'd been more serious about my power. If I had actually used it with responsibility. But I didn't. And a good kid died before he turned 25. Because of me.
Joe, I can't tell you I know what you're going through. I got into this business for 4 different reasons. But I think what you're feeling right now is probably good for you. And eventually you'll get over it. I really think that Nuke would have wanted you to forgive yourself. And, hey, before we, take off to the meeting, I wanted to talk something over with you. My little, brush with the Reaper today really got me thinking. And I, figured I'd stop stalling and, ask Lady Lark to marry me. What do you think? You old hound dog! I think that's a great idea. You'd better march her down the aisle before someone beats you to it. Then I can count on you to be my best man. You bet your arrow, Cupid. Oh, I'm so happy for you, man. Later that night, at the Squadron's headquarters, Hyperion and the others finish their daily check-in when Tom Thumb arrives with a little robot to display to them the prototype of his newest invention for the Utopia project. He calls it the Behavior Modification Program, and this device is called the B-Mod for short. Then he starts to explain how it works, as Golden Archer gets pissed off that the midget decided tonight of all nights to go on about a long presentation. Tom explains that the device is used by placing the helmet over the wearer's head like they're at a hair salon, and then modifies his or her cells to replace any negative tendencies with positive ones. Tom tested it on himself as the first human trial to get him to stop biting his fingernails, and it worked, which means that they can permanently reform any criminal into a well-adjusted member of society. No flaws! None! Everyone claps as Tom announces that wide-scale field tests are to begin tomorrow morning, and then Amphibian brings up the ethics of a machine like this. What a whiny baby, am I right? Amphibian explains that this is totally different from their gun control program, because with that, they were taking away hunks of metal that are only used for the sole purpose of killing or the threat thereof. Whereas with the B-Mod machines, they're literally removing pieces of someone's mind and who they are. Tom explains that it doesn't actually take anything away in the literal sense. It just kind of makes the person find a certain idea or behavior that they used to find acceptable no longer such. Of course, again, his fingernail biting. Amphibian retorts that they're still tampering with free will and they can't go through with this, and Arcana agrees and thinks it's totally unnatural, and if the public learns about this, things could go very poorly. Dr. Spectrum suggests it could be a voluntary process, at least at first, with the offer of immediate parole, and then Hyperion calls it to a vote. And the only dissenters are Arcana and Amphibian, and this causes Amphibian to storm out of the room. Also, I haven't brought it up before because he hasn't done much, and this is probably about as much as he does, I think. Amphibian's real name is Kingsley Rice, and he is an obvious parody of the King of Atlantis over at DC Comics, Arthur Curry. Huh? With the meeting adjourned, the members either make chat or go off on their own for the night. Golden Archer and Lady Lark being 2 specific examples. Archer asks if they could head outside for a walk, because he has something to talk about. and out in the cool, crisp air of whatever mountain range this is, the crickets chirp in the brush and the stars shine unabated above them. It is the perfect romantic evening. And now we set the stage. Linda, there's no point really beating around the bush, after all. You and I known each other for years now, and I don't know about you, but I can never keep any secrets from you. But what I'm trying to say is, I've been thinking about this a lot, and how about if you and me got married?
Married? This is so sudden, so out of the blue, Wyatt. I don't know.
Hey, after all the time it took me to get around to asking you, I didn't expect an immediate answer. Take your time, think it over. All I can say is that I realized I love you like I'll never love anybody else. Lady Lark then returns to the base, and Archer, so excited, runs down the hill to a slope and just releases a couple of explosive arrows into the sky in celebration. Later, Tom Thumb and Hyperion are working together and inspecting the B-Mod machine as Blue Eagle, Spectrum watch football, and Whizzer calls his wife over a video phone. Lark finally makes her way to the sleeping quarters where she finds Arcana. She stirs her friend to consciousness and then sits down next to her.
I'm in an awful predicament. Wyatt proposed to me, but I don't feel the same way about him that I used to. And I've been working up the courage to actually tell him that, but oh my God, now he's gone and sprung this on me. How could I possibly let him down easy? This is gonna be a mess.
Oh, I was in the same situation once too, Linda, before I met Philip. And I think the fairest, most honest thing you or anyone else can do is to tell him how you really feel. Be gentle, but firm. And I also recommend you get it over with as soon as possible.
Linda then gets up to leave, and Arcana briefly stops her, wanting to tell her something, but figures that now probably isn't the time. And as Lady Lark leaves the sleeping quarters, Arcana thinks about how excited she is to just tell someone that she's pregnant again. That's right. This is a really fun thing, and something that I have always suspected character Emma Frost as doing. Because we do get a character later in the series that's very similar to what I always envision Emma Frost to do, which is just she completely rewrites what other people see her as, because Arcana, as the series progresses, becomes more and more visibly pregnant. But because she is magic, and it has magic and prestidigitation and whatnot, she makes everyone else see her as just the lithe, slim, regular version of her, and it's only when that magical shell is uncast that, her belly appears. It's a really cool idea, and I've always suspected Emma Frost doing something similar, but no one ever cares to bring that up. Because she's a hot blonde, I'd have to imagine, and who wants to ruin that fantasy? Anyway, later outside the base, Archer returns from his one-man fireworks display to find Linda and excitedly runs up to her. Hey, beautiful! Guess it didn't take long to make up your mind, eh?
Wyatt, believe me, this is as painful for me
What?
as it will be for you. I've been giving your proposal some thought, and I've actually been giving our whole relationship a lot of thought for some months now. First, I need to tell you that I'm very flattered that you'd propose. You're a very fine and decent man with a good soul, and I've never regretted our time we've spent together. But even though there's so much about you that I enjoy and admire, I'm just not sure I'm ready to commit myself to this. And maybe it's all my fault. I don't know if I'm ready to keep all this up. We're talking about something really permanent. I can't see that you're really the right man for me. Someone I can actually spend the rest of my life with. I'm just so sorry we never talked about this before now, but you never wanted to talk about it. You just wanted...
Damn it! What you're saying is, you don't even want things to be like they were before, is that right? And if I go and bare my soul to you, you tell me you want to end it right here, right now? And what, walk away and forget everything? It's somebody else, isn't it? You found somebody better than me, haven't you? Haven't you? You've gone pairing up with that little wicked weirdo Blue Eagle an awful lot, huh? Admit it! God almighty, I really hope these walls are as soundproof as I think they are, because otherwise my neighbors are gonna think that I'm getting into a weird fight where I'm putting on a crazy accent. Wyatt marches back into the base after Linda, but he can't track her down. Instead, he accidentally runs into Dr. Spectrum. He tells his buddy all about what happened and his suspicions regarding Blue Eagle. And now he's gonna find the cunt and rip his teeth out. Spectrum stops him from making things far worse and offers to take a walk and help him work through these feelings without throwing any punches. It's such an incredible character arc that Dr. Spectrum goes on. He's like possibly the one that has the most character change throughout this whole series, because everybody sort of just gets stuck in their own ways, and it really becomes the road to paradise or the road to hell is paved with good intentions. The road to paradise is bathed in the blood of innocence. I don't know what I was originally going to say. But Dr. Spectrum, just from the beginning, the first two issues, we see he's a fucking schmoozy ladies man who doesn't really care about much. And then the nuke thing happens, and now it affects him severely. And so we'll be seeing more of that grow as the series continues on. And this is one of those things. Dr. Spectrum, if Nuke was still around, 100% would have been down to beat the shit out of Blue Eagle. But now, he's like, hey, that's toxic masculinity or something. Let's actually not do that, because I've seen what the fuck happens when you don't talk about things and let your unbridled emotions run amok. And let's work this out, buddy. We're best friends. We're heterosexual life partners. Let's take a walk. 2 hours later, Wyatt thanks Joe, and they bid each other a good night, and then Wyatt marches off, and oh god, nothing good ever happens when this panel is shown in the book. Every time poor little Tom Thumb is working away at his lab, and someone stands in his doorway behind him like this, it never goes well. Just lock the fucking door, Tom! Anyway, Golden Archer asks Tom if he could, hey, I missed out on the presentation earlier. You know who I am. Can you explain it to me in detail and exactly how it works? Tom, although a bit suspicious, has far more on his mind than whatever the fuck Golden Archer is up to, and he's no doubt exhausted and also probably pretty wired on stimulants, I'd imagine. So he just has more to think about than Golden Archer's weird social cues. So he goes on with the basic explanation. The perpetrator is placed in the machine, and the helmet lowers like they're in the hair salon, blah, blah, blah. And then after, the access code is inputted, which Tom explains to him what this test device's access code is. It's just like a basic default. Thumb, his last name, I guess. The operator then speaks clearly and thoroughly into the microphone, the nature of the behavior that needs to be modified, and the AI within the machine takes care of the rest. Then Archer asks if it's permanent, and whether or not it actually affects anything else other than the specified section of the mind. And Tom Thumb tells him how it works, and that the subject says the exact same, except for that subtle change. Something as subtle as no longer liking ice cream, but they'll still be them, assuming the order given isn't something ludicrous.
What was that about? It sure ain't like Wyatt to take an interest in my work. He didn't even call me a midget. Must have decided to stop acting like a jackass.
Oh, you're so beautiful, love. Here's something to help you sleep. Linda Lewis, when you awaken, you will, when you awaken, you will love Wyatt MacDonald, the Golden Archer, with all your heart, and all your mind, and all your soul. And you won't ever be interested in anyone else again.
Released in 1985, written by Mark Grunwald with pencils by Bob Hall, inks by John Beatty, and colors by Christy Shiel. This is Squadron Supreme 5, Turnabout. Previously on Squadron Supreme. We vow to eliminate hunger, poverty, war, crime, disease, pollution, and oppression within 1 year from tonight. If we cannot do so in that time period, we will voluntarily give up any and all authority hereby invested in us. We are the world's best hope. As a gesture of the openness and sincerity by which we take this pledge to you, we would like to shed our masks. Later that night, at the Squadron's headquarters, Hyperion and the others finish their daily check-in when Tom Thumb arrives with a little robot to display to them the prototype of his newest invention for the Utopia project. Tom explains that the device is used by placing the helmet over the wearer's head like they're at a hair salon, and then modifies his or her cells to replace any negative tendencies with positive ones. I wanted to talk something over with you. My little brush with the Reaper today really got me thinking, and I figured I'd stop stalling and ask Lady Locke to marry me.
I can't see that you're really the right man for me. Someone I can actually spend the rest of my life with. I'm just so sorry we never talked about this before now, but you never wanted to talk about it. You just wanted...
Damn it! What you're saying is, you don't even want things to be like they were before, is that right?
Here's something to help you sleep. When you awaken, you will love Wyatt MacDonald, the Golden Archer, with all your heart, and all your mind, and all your soul. And you won't ever be interested in anyone else again.
The book begins in media res, as the Golden Archer wakes up to find himself strung up in the lair of the Institute of Evil. Dr. Decibel, Ape X, Foxfire, Lamprey, Quagmire, and The Shape. Flashback time. After Golden Archer did, the horrible drugging and then subsequent kidnapping and brainwashing of his girlfriend to love only him, he needed a little breathing room because the old machine worked a little too well. Oh, old ball and chain, am I right, fellas? That's literally what it is. She became so obsessed with Golden Archer that every waking moment she wanted to be with him. And he began to worry that at a certain point the rest of the squadron were becoming suspicious. And also, oh my god, women! He went out on his own for a little walk in the woods, and that is when the Institute of Evil caught him. Meanwhile, at a prison in upstate Vesperia, Hyperion and Arcana continue work on the Utopia Project. They've brought forth one of Tom Thumb's behavioral modification machines, aka the B-Mod, to work on a prisoner who is elected to undergo voluntary treatment for immediate parole. The prisoner, Calvin, asks what'll happen once he gets out, because, he's still gonna have a record, and Hyperion assures him that the Squadron has begun a job and relocation service for ex-convicts who partake in the program. Then Arcana readies and operates the machine and rewrites Calvin Maroney's mind so that he now feels a deep regard for all living creatures and is incapable of doing anything that might inflict injury or death. So on and so forth. Several minutes later, Calvin comes to and feels better than he ever has. He says that his mind feels like it's finally been freed of a terrible, heavy burden, and he thanks the heroes and they wish him luck. The warden then tells him that they still have 67 prisoners left to be-modify, but the two don't have the time for today, so they agree to return tomorrow. Arcana packs up as Hyperion informs the warden that he'll bring a list of job opportunities tomorrow because, once the Utopia Project is in full effect, prisons are going to be obsolete, and these guys are going to be out of the job. Meanwhile, in the suburbs outside of Mechanopolis, Stanley Stewart, aka the Wizard, bids his wife and child goodbye and heads off at supersonic speeds. He arrives right as the team are discussing the whereabouts of Golden Archer. Nothing has come up yet, and Hyperion instructs Dr. Spectrum and Lady Lark to continue their search first thing tomorrow morning. Tom Thumb then goes on to explain that he'll have 2 more B-Mod machines ready and operational by the end of the week, but he could really use some assistance, and Hyperion asks if anyone has any suggestions for their current manpower shortage. Cut to a rundown apartment building, aka the current base of the Institute of Evil. Apex and Dr. Decibel conclude their overview of all of the information they've obtained via interrogation of Golden Archer, and then she assigns each of them to abduct a squadron member's relatives. Lamprey is sent after Arcana's husband and kids, Foxfire is to kidnap Prower Princess's elderly husband, Quagmire's targets are the Wizard's family, and Shape and Dr. Decibel are sent to abduct Blue Eagle's mother in Fredonia. The next day, Tom Thumb sits alone in his lab talking to his artificial intelligence system, Ada, and she plays him some orchestral classical music as he works, and a little bit later, he begins hacking and coughing horribly. Ada asks if he's okay, and he tells her not to worry. Then the intruder alarm sounds, and Ada reveals that something is jamming her audio-visual circuits. Tom panics and collects his force field belt and a neuron scrambler gun and leaves the lab to investigate the sudden sounds of invasion outside of the base. He finds the Institute of Evil in the meeting room, trashing the place. Tom opens fire but is struck by Dr. Decibel. Lamprey soars at Tom, places his hand against the force field, and absorbs the energy into himself. Tom attempts to flee, but Quagmire exudes his dark force tar to subdue him. Quagmire orders Tom to tell him where the mind control devices are as Ada watches from her security systems, and then she alerts the Squadron, who are all in the middle of various tasks around the country. The Institute find the B-Mod machine as Decibel orders everyone except for Quagmire to get into their battle stations just in case the Squadron are on their way back. Then Quagmire gags Tom and places him inside the B-Mod machine. 45 minutes later, the first wave of the Squadron members arrive. The Squadron and the Institute engage in battle throughout the entrance of the base and into the meeting room, and that is until Tom and Foxfire arrive and reveal that all of their loved ones are being held hostage. The Squadron stand down under the threat of retribution should they continue, and soon after, Power Princess and the Amphibian arrive, and it's the same situation. Who the fuck did they kidnap to get Amphibian to stand down, by the way? A goldfish? Maybe he just gave up because he just doesn't feel like dealing with this shit anymore. He's gonna leave sometime soon. I just can't remember which issue it is that he takes off. Elsewhere, Wizard and Hyperion arrive through the rear of the base. Unfortunately, Hyperion is immediately drained of his powers by Lamprey. Wizard begins to act when Spectrum tells him that they have his wife and daughter. He speeds away, racing back to his suburban home to ensure that it's not a trick by the Institute, but he stops at a payphone, places a call to the operator, and enters the number, and waits, and waits, and waits. And there's no answer. Then at the speed of sound, he races to the nearest police station, orders the on-duty officer to take him to their impounded weapons, and Whizzer sorts through it and retrieves an automatic submachine gun. Then he speeds back to the base of the Squadron Supreme, enters via the amphibian secret waterway tunnel, and finds the Institute, and opens fire! Unfortunately, the Squadron stop the hail of bullets, and Whizzer realizes what's happened just seconds before Lady Lark uses her sonic voice upon him. Hours later, the Squadron and the Institute arrive at one of the Institute of Evil's bases, where they find the kidnapped families and Golden Archer. Ape X commends her cohorts on a job well done, as Shape cheers and Lamprey giggles with ultimate energy high that he is still riding. Hyperion steps forward to introduce himself to Ape X, and then he orders an attack. The Squadron break out into a flurry of fists and battle, and the Institute of Evil is quickly undone, and the hostages are freed. You see, Tom installed a failsafe into the B-mod machines, just in the event that someone tried to use the machines on one of the Squadron members. It is programmed to recognize all of their brain patterns and automatically reject any alterations that are attempted. The thing is, he doesn't reveal to Hyperion that he only did that after he realized what Golden Archer had done. What the fuck, Tom? What the hell? Maybe give him the benefit of the doubt here. Maybe he knows that it's been used on someone. He probably has a log or something in the system, and he knows that it was used at some point. Maybe he doesn't know it was used by Golden Archer, but I'm sure he's smart enough to have realized it at a certain point, or he's just that naive. Still fucked up. Should probably let somebody know that, Tom. Anyway, Hyperion congratulates Spectrum on handling himself courageously after his months of inactivity after Nuke's death, and Whizzer apologizes for his actions. He tells Hyperion that he is absolutely willing to resign after his rash judgment, but Hyperion says that they're all entitled to an error in judgment or two. And then he gives Whizzer a big smile. The end. Released in 1985, written by Mark Grunwald, with art by Paul Ryan. This is Squadron Supreme 6, Inner Circle. Previously on Squadron Supreme. Later that night, at the Squadron's headquarters, Hyperion and the others finish their daily check-in when Tom Thumb arrives with a little robot to display to them the prototype of his newest invention for the Utopia project. When you awaken, you will love Wyatt MacDonald, the Golden Archer, with all your heart, and all your mind, and all your soul. And you won't ever be interested in anyone else again. Dr. Decibel, Ape X, Foxfire, Lamprey, Quagmire, and The Shape. Hyperion and Arcana continue work on the Utopia project. They've brought forth one of Tom Thumb's behavioral modification machines to work on a prisoner who is elected to undergo voluntary treatment for immediate parole. Hours later, the Squadron and the Institute arrive at one of the Institute of Evil's bases. Hyperion steps forward to introduce himself to Ape X, and then he orders an attack. The Squadron break out into a flurry of fists and battle, and the Institute of Evil is quickly undone, and the hostages are freed. You see, Tom installed a failsafe into the B-mod machines, just in the event that someone tried to use the machines on one of the Squadron members. And Whizzer apologizes for his actions. He tells Hyperion that he is absolutely willing to resign after his rash judgment, but Hyperion says that they're all entitled to an error in judgment or two. The book begins a month after the last. Arcana, along with her family, Hyperion and Tom Thumb, stand at the precipice of a cliff watching as she conducts her magical wonders. She's currently in the process of magically hiding the brand new, state-of-the-art facility, Squadron City. Everyone flies down to Squadron City. Hyperion and Tom head off to the main complex as Arcana and her family go over to the suburb housing area. They find Madeline, Whizzer's wife, and she speaks to Arcana about how dejected Stan, her husband, has become since he ran out of the Squadron when he thought that she and their child was in danger. I mean, yeah, it makes sense that he would do that. You know, it's his wife and child. but I think that his big issue is that he's supposed to be a superhero and a member of the squadron, and as such, it really calls into question, does the one person outweigh the majority if that one person is your partner or is someone deeply close to you? Like, really, what are you supposed to do there? And to top it all off, that majority also included the squadron themselves, who had all been taken out by supervillains and seemingly brainwashed once again. If it had happened, it would have been twice in about a year that the squadron had been brainwashed by an evil villain. But he didn't try to stop that. He didn't try and stop the Institute of Evil. Instead, he left to look after his own personal issues rather than the issues that could affect the entire world. And he's not feeling great about himself. At the main complex, Ape X is at work manufacturing more force-filled belts and figuring out how to produce them at a fraction of the cost. She suggests that all of the former weapons and munitions factories in America could be easily converted into manufacturing plants for these personal protection devices. And Tom is happy that someone, Ape X, is actually praising his genius for once. Hyperion continues his route and flies off to find Power Princess and Quagmire and a crew of workers. Maybe these are like the former inmates who underwent the B-Mod machine brain rewriting operation. It's never really brought up, like I said. But that's a nice little headcanon, is that, hey, they hire out the prisoners that had their minds rewritten to be helpful to society, and now they enlist them and hire them out to work on the Squadron City. I don't know, I like that. Then he comes across Lamprey and Doc Spectrum. Hyperion asks how Spectrum's therapy sessions are going, and Doc reveals that he's still not ready for any combat duty. Hyperion tells him that it doesn't matter if he's ready to do that. He's more worried about Doc Spectrum on a personal level, but Spectrum turns his back and flies off to continue working. Elsewhere, Amphibian and Da Shape begin filling in the city's artificial lake. Amphibian, being one of the few members of the squadron with an actual good head on his shoulders, asks Da Shape about the B-Mod process and how Shape feels after it, if it hurt or if he feels like he's missing a part of himself or something. Shape tells him that he doesn't feel any of that, and that he actually likes that they did it because now he has friends. Amphibian spots Hyperion soaring towards him and asks Shape not to reveal what they were just discussing. Hyperion arrives and joyfully asks how it's going, and Amphibian snaps back that they could have at least chosen a site that wasn't in the middle of the desert, because he can't be outside of a body of water for, like, a specific time. He has to submerge himself continually every couple hours, I think. Hyperion, not understanding where these emotions are truly coming from, apologizes half-heartedly and says that Amphibian was outvoted. Then Amphibian quietly notes that that's been happening a lot lately. Hyperion tells him to take up his grievances at the meeting tonight and suggests that Tom Thumb could make a pipeline to the ocean from here, and flies away. And then Hyperion thinks to himself about just how much being superheroes 24 hours a day is having an effect on them. He thinks it's really taking a toll on the entire team, not being able to escape this life like they once did when they had secret identities, and he starts wondering and pondering how they could possibly alleviate this. But it doesn't last long, because he finds Foxfire, who is supervising a supply delivery. He inquires where Lady Lark is during this, since she's supposed to be supervising Foxfire. Foxfire reveals that she left a little while ago to go check on Golden Archer. Hyperion gets annoyed and flies off to find her. In the squadron hospital, Lady Lark goes all lovey-dovey on Archer as he lies in the hospital bed groaning in pain. Then she asks when they should start planning the wedding, and Archer tells her to give him some time to recuperate for God's sake, and says that if she really loved him, she'd give him some time to himself. Then she leaves, totally ignoring the incoming Dr. Decibel. Outside, Lady Lark walks alone through the facility, thinking about Wyatt McDonald, her adoring fiancé. And then Blue Eagle finds her, and she completely ignores him, telling him that whatever fling they were thinking of igniting before no longer exists. He grabs her and demands to know why. Barely over a month ago or so, she was on the verge of splitting up with Golden Archer, and now she is basically his love slave. She shouts that he's just jealous and is sick, and then sonically screams Blue Eagle away and tells him to leave her alone. Meanwhile, in another hidden citadel untold miles from Squadron City sits a man who has grown very curious about the Squadron's activities. Master Menace. Master Menace lounges in his base, noting that the Squadron are almost rivals at this point rather than opponents, and he watches various newsreels footage. Specifically an interview with Tom regarding the decriminalization program and the behavior modification machines. Master Menace then plans on retrieving said device and figure out how to counteract its effects. Then his robotic aide, Cerebrax, informs him that his guests have arrived. And in a meeting hall, Master Menace finds Mink, Remnant, and Pinball. The trio race up to Menace and plead with him to get them out of here. They don't want to wind up like the Institute of Evil, and they're hoping that they can offer their services to Master Menace to test out his interdimensional gateway as a method of escape from this reality to some other one where the Squadron doesn't exist. Master Menace agrees to get them out of here, and when they ask if he'll ever use it himself, he reveals that this is his world, and not even the Squadron Supreme will make him flee it, even if he is the last criminal on Earth. Then he sends the trio to Earth 616, where issue 314 of Captain America takes place. 9 hours later, the Squadron meet in their new assembly chamber as Hyperion calls the meeting to order with activity reports. Whizzer plays a hologram recording of a prison warden refusing to allow the B-Mod machine in his facility on the basis of morality, and shouts that the Squadron have no right tampering with human brains. Whizzer continues that they were unable to get him to cooperate and that they just left. Hyperion notes that they'll just have to work to prove the benefits to the Warden, and then Amphibian stands up in anger and asks what'll happen if the Warden still refuses. Are they going to brainwash him too? And if they do, why stop there? Why not go after the newsmen and the reporters and the anchors and the journalists and all the people who don't present them in a flattering light? Why not go after the protesters that keep amassing against them? But he's cut off by Power Princess, who notes that the B-Mod machine is the cornerstone of their crime prevention program and is the most humane way of dealing with criminals. Hyperion interjects and moves the conversation forward to something else, involving the former members of the Institute of Evil, and their induction into the Squadron Supreme itself as full-fledged members. Whizzer, Blue Eagle, Lady Lark, and Amphibian vote against. Power Princess, Doc Spectrum, Tom Thumb, and Arcana vote for. Hyperion stands momentarily silent before the table, the humming holograms illuminating the room, and votes to induct the 6 former members of the Institute of Evil into the Squadron Supreme. Then Blue Eagle leaps out onto the floor and announces that he has concerns of 2 core members of their group, Lady Lark and Golden Archer. He calls to question how strange she's been acting these past few months. Spectrum tries to defend the couple when Blue Eagle accuses Golden Archer of straight up using the B-Mod machine on her. He calls out Tom to prove it by accessing the machine's system history, and Blue Eagle proposes that Tom's programming to recognize the squad's brain patterns, that didn't occur until after it had already been used without Tom's knowledge. Tom hangs his head in shame and reveals that yes, he did know it had been used, but he didn't know for a fact if it was Archer or not. Although I'm pretty sure the clues were obvious, Tom. Hyperion asks Spectrum to retrieve Golden Archer, and a little later he sits before them in his wheelchair and admits to what he did. Spectrum removes him from the room, and Golden Archer silently is carried through the air as the eyes of those he betrayed silently stalk him. Arcana asks if it can be reversed, but Tom reveals that doing so could cause permanent brain damage. Lady Lark then breaks out into a tearful run and leaves. Blue Eagle demands that Archer is expelled from the team after he deliberately betrayed not just a member of their team, but his own partner. Spectrum defends him. Tom says that they can't just start bending the rules around the B-Mod machine now. Whizzer suggests that Archer is broken and repentant enough as is. Arcana tells him that Archer has violated Lady Lark and her mind, and she was not going to stand for this. Amphibian declares that they're all hypocrites. They supported this machine being built. They handed it to Archer like a loaded gun and are now shirking the responsibility after he fired it. Although oddly enough, Amphibian is one of the 3 votes in favor of no disciplinary actions taken against Archer. Power Princess is also the sole vote for B-modding Golden Archer. And then there are 3 votes for expulsion. And once again, Hyperion casts the deciding vote and agrees to expel the Golden Archer from the Squadron Supreme. He calls the meeting to an end and goes to inform him. Doc Spectrum threatens Blue Eagle with whistleblowing and tries to get in his face, but Whizzer stops him. Hyperion finds Archer and Lady Lark in the sitting room and informs him of their decision, and Lady Lark quits in protest. Later that night, as the Squadron are all busy with family, work, or other activities in the Squadron City, Amphibian arrives at one of the lab buildings and locates the B-mod machines, which he promptly destroys. As he's leaving, Ape X finds him, and he tells her that, he just heard some strange noises going on, and was coming to investigate, but found nothing. Then he instructs Ape X to perform a mass wipe of the B-mod device plans from every system they have. She questions why, and he grimaces and tells her it's because he told her to. And now, after she's been B-modded, she has to obey every direct order from a member of the Squadron. That's why. And a half hour later, Amphibian steals an air car, crashes it into the ocean, and says farewell to the surface world. And elsewhere, Nighthawk stands at the foot of a temple, believing to have finally come up with a plan to stop the Squadron Supreme. Released in 1985, written by Mark Grunwald, with art by John Buscema and Jackson Geiss, this is Squadron Supreme 7, Love and Death. Previously on Squadron Supreme. I've fought to make the world a better place too, but solving all the world's problems and handing it to people on a silver platter just seems wrong. How meaningful will a utopia be if it's a gift and not something that has been earned?
There's a way to save countless lives who would have been lost to all of these afflictions, and we don't try to implement it. What kind of heroes would we be?
We vow to eliminate hunger, poverty, war, crime, disease, pollution, and oppression within 1 year from tonight. If we cannot do so in that time period, we will voluntarily give up any and all authority hereby invested in us. We are the world's best hope. And Hyperion assures him that the Squadron has begun a job and relocation service for ex-convicts who partake in the program. Then Arcana readies and operates the machine and rewrites Calvin Maroney's mind so that he now feels a deep regard for all living creatures and is incapable of doing anything that might inflict injury or death. Blue Eagle demands that Archer is expelled from the team after he deliberately betrayed not just a member of their team, but his own partner. Amphibian declares that they're all hypocrites. Amphibian arrives at one of the lab buildings and locates the B-mod machines, which he promptly destroys. As he's leaving, Ape X finds him. Then he instructs Ape X to perform a mass wipe of the B-mod device plans from every system they have. She questions why, and he grimaces and tells her it's because he told her to. And now, after she's been B-modded, she has to obey every direct order from a member of the Squadron. That's why. And a half hour later, Amphibian steals an air car, crashes it into the ocean, and says farewell to the surface world. The book begins with the return of Nighthawk. Nighthawk is taken to the secret observatory base by Mink, Remnant, and Pinball, who, in the previous issue, were all sent to Earth 616, and then promptly sent back by Captain America and Nighthawk. The overall consensus was that people wanted me to cover that issue of Captain America with this crossover, so I think once I finish the main issues of the Squadron series, I'll go back to that one, since, we're kind of past past that point now. I may as well just finish the main issues. Anyway, the aforementioned secret observatory base is owned by none other than Master Menace. Nighthawk is captured in a stasis field by Master Menace, and then reveals that he had the Earth's retired Wizard Supreme, Professor Imam, send him to an alternate universe where he hoped to find superheroes that could return and help him overthrow the Squadron. Unfortunately, all he found were the trio of villains in Captain America, who convinced them that their goals were the same and that they should join forces instead. Master Menace asks what his goal is, and Nighthawk informs him that he is going to defeat the Squadron Supreme. Then Nighthawk proposes that he and Master Menace join forces. Master Menace says that Master Menace allies himself with no one other than Master Menace, and that his underlings are of his own choosing. Then he orders Nighthawk to leave. Nighthawk escapes out into the night with the others, and they fly away. Later, Master Menace marches through the halls of his base and works on his own plan to defeat the Squadron. You see, that machine that he used to travel the multiverse and, tear a hole in reality and send those three into Earth 616, he has been using it to actually scan the dimensions that are available to locate a certain individual. And he has finally discovered who he's looking for, located somewhere in interdimensional space. Master Menace retrieves a large metal rod and injects it into a glowing mass of unknowable cosmic multiversal energy as he dredges the void between space until he rips out Hyperion. He's like a vendor at a carnival, using one of those long rods to grab a stuffed animal. This Hyperion asks who his rescuer is, and Master Menace removes his helmet to reveal his big beard and long wild hair, and announces that he is Dr. Emil Burbank. They've actually met before. Briefly, but they have. Hyperion recognizes the name and realizes that he's been sent to the other world with the other Hyperion. Because this fake Hyperion, Hyperlion, is the original Hyperion character. Hyperion and the Squadron Sinister were originally created by Roy Thomas as a hacky knockoff of the Justice League to fight and lose against the Avengers way back in 1969. He and the others were created by the Grand Master, and it was later kind of retconned that the Grand Master really just made them as living bootlegs of the original real Squadron Supreme, the ones that we're following currently. And after some weird adventures on Earth 616, where Hyperion kind of gets trapped as a villain for a while, he wound up in an endless void outside of reality until Master Menace just fished him out. Also, this Hyperion, is a fucking idiot. And he's also in love with Thundra from Earth 616. And Master Menace, of course, proposes that he can use his technology to find her, and then once his work here is done, and Hyperion helps him, Hyperlion, then Master Menace will send him to go live a happy life with his love, Thundra. Meanwhile, the real Hyperion flies to a prison with a massive crate tied around his waist with Foxfire. They meet with the warden and inform him that they've had to completely overhaul the behavior modification or BMod machines due to some issues, and now they're a bit behind schedule. The warden once again says that he refuses to alter the minds of his fellow man, and Foxfire tells him that she is a much better woman for getting her brain scrambled. It has totally stifled her urges to act antisocially and engage in violence and crime, and she says that she is far happier and actually proud of who she is. But as they're speaking, oh, look at that! Coincidentally, there is a massive meteorite crashing to Earth. Hyperion breaks away into action and chases after the meteor and nearly destroys a hawk. He prepares to shatter the space rock when suddenly an energy overcomes him and he disappears. And inside the meteor, which is actually a ship, Master Menace sets down his displacer ray that he just shot out the window in some weird sci-fi drive-by, and orders Hyperlion to evacuate the ship and follow the plan. The meteor detonates and Master Menace's ship blasts off at great speeds as Hyperlion pretends to crash land. Sometime later, a helicopter from the prison finds him lying in the desert pretending to be unconscious. Foxfire races to him and radios in the accident, and about an hour later, he's returned to the Squadron City, and Dr. Decibel inspects Hyperion and concludes that he has a concussion, but none of their equipment works on him because he's a fucking alien. Then Hyperion wakes up with amnesia. And later, Power Princess gives a rundown to... oh my. Power Princess gives a rundown to the rest of the squadron about what happened to Hyperion, and that their deadline to reconstitute the country under their control is 6 months away. And they are in the far worse spot now that 1, their leader Hyperion is amnesic, 2, amphibian busted all the B-mod equipment and their research and just ran off to the oceans. 3, there's that whole Golden Archer situation that they had to deal with. The 4, I guess I could keep going. People still hate them. 5, Nighthawk just hasn't been seen for the past 7 months. And you can just keep going with the issues that they have to deal with. Power Princess says that as Hyperion's oldest and longest friend in the superhero field, she'll see to making sure that he gets back in the saddle. Wizard then notes that this Hyperion situation should definitely be kept under wraps, like Roosevelt's wheelchair. Doc Spectrum announces that he is ready to re-enter combat duty and take Hyperion's place. And sometime later, Power Princess arrives at the hospital room of Hyperion, and she gives him a diamond to crush, and he does so with extreme ease. Then she asks if he's up for flying. Hyperion is apprehensive, but does it with ease as well, and as they fly over the crater city of the Squadron base, Zarda thinks about how she's been seeing Hyperion in a new way these past couple months. And this vulnerability he's experiencing is appealing. Hyperion likens Zarda to Thundra. They land in the housing area, and beneath the moonlight, they feel a connection and a tension that pulls them closer and closer, until Zarda says that she needs to get inside. Hyperion watches her leave, and then notices a light flicker on in the second story. So, obviously, he flies up to the window, and sees Zarda meet her aged husband, and kiss him goodnight on the forehead. Hyperion flies off in annoyance, wondering if that was her boyfriend or grandfather. He heads back to his hospital room, and this coloring mistake actually looks pretty good. I really dig the visual of the solid red sleeves on Hyperion. I honestly kind of like this mistake in the coloring more than the actual look. Anyway, fake Hyperion finds Decibel and explains that Power Princess was trying to jog his memory by touring the Squadron crater city with him, but no dice. Then he asks who the old man is, and Decibel explains that he's her husband. I don't know if I've ever actually discussed the fact that I think I did pretty early on. I think there's something about it. But in case you're wondering, if you forgot, obviously she's Wonder Woman, Power Princess is. So this is her Steve Trevor, meaning that they met 40 years prior in World War II. She was comparatively younger, probably did look the same though. He was 40 years younger. So, take a guess what happened. The next morning, however, Zarda rushes through the hospital halls, carrying Howard in her arms. And not long after, Dr. Decibel and the medical staff try to resuscitate him, but they're unable to. And Zarda follows as they wheel him out, and she is comforted by Hyperion. Because Hyperion used his super breath to suck all of the air out of his lungs and collapse them. And then, to make sure nobody was suspicious, he waited to hear the old man die and blew oxygen back into his lungs. Later that night, Hyperion walks with Zarda and they discuss the current state of his amnesia. She tells him that they have to work on it a little more, but he's getting there. He's doing good, and pretty soon he'll be back in the public eye and running things. Then she thanks him for walking her home, and Hyperion wonders whether or not he should betray the squadron. Because on one hand, he can get Thundra back, maybe, if Master Menace keeps his word. But on the other hand, if he chooses Zarda the Power Princess. That's a muscle mommy who's right here! And he has to do substantially less work to win her over. He decides that his Betty and Veronica situation is better if he goes with the actual woman who's here and not there, where he doesn't know. So he flies to Master Menace's base and unleashes his laser vision. Master Menace's force field disperses it, and Hyperion goes fucking crazy on him. He just totals Master Menace and his lab, and Master Menace manages to escape and activates his dimensional machine and uses his armor to open a portal and leaps away into nothing as fake Hyperion smashes his way through the lab. He takes a look around, doesn't bother to investigate, figures that he did a good enough job killing Master Menace, and then rockets himself away. The next day, a funeral service is held for Howard Shelton. And 4 days after that, Hyperion has been sufficiently coached and brought up to speed on his amnesia, and he and Power Princess go to that uppity warden's prison to get the B-Mod machines in use. And a week after that, at Lake Supreme in Squadron City, Zarda yields to an irresistible force. The end. Released in 1985, written by Mark Grunwald with art by Bob Hall. This is Squadron Supreme. The Clash. Previously on Squadron Supreme.
I propose we dedicate ourselves to remaking the world a utopia. This curbing of power policy hasn't worked. Maybe this crisis could have been avoided if we had all been living up to our potential. With great powers such as ours come equally great responsibilities.
Master Menace retrieves a large metal rod and injects it into a glowing mass of unknowable cosmic multiversal energy. He rips out Hyperion. This Hyperion asks who his rescuer is, and Master Menace removes his helmet to reveal his big beard and long wild hair, and announces that he is Dr. Emile Burbank. Hyperion recognizes the name and realizes that he's been sent to the other world with the other Hyperion. Hyperion breaks away into action and chases after the meteor. He prepares to shatter the space rock when suddenly an energy overcomes him and he disappears. The meteor detonates and Master Menace's ship blasts off at great speeds as Hyperion pretends to crash land. Then Hyperion wakes up with amnesia. So he flies to Master Menace's base and unleashes his laser vision. Master Menace's force field disperses it, and Hyperion goes fucking crazy on him. Menace manages to escape and activates his dimensional machine and uses his armor to open a portal and leaps away into nothing. At Lake Supreme in Squadron City, Zarda yields to an irresistible force. The Wizard, don't laugh, races through a city that looks like this world's version of San Francisco. Across town, two supervillains named the Rustler and Bollocks come out of hiding to rob a bank. They use the now widely publicly available personal force field belts to escape the two security officers. Then the Wizard arrives, and he easily reduces the effectiveness of their force fields by dribbling the men like basketballs to the nearby police precinct and placing them in a cell. 20 miles away, Tom Thumb and, to a lesser extent, Da Shape inspect a force belt manufacturing plant. Wizard then arrives as Tom and Da Shape head out to lunch and brings up the fact that criminals are using the force field belts. But Tom says, let's keep that on the down low for now. Let's not worry the rest of the squadron with that just yet. Elsewhere, Ape X and Quagmire, two members of the former Institute of Evil, are joined by Blue Eagle to oversee a facility manufacturing chemical tranquilizer pellets called Gumdrops. If you remember in earlier issues, the Squadron Supreme outlawed firearms entirely. They rounded them up, they smelted them down to be reused for new metals, for infrastructure, or whatever else. So now, this new technology developed by Tom Thumb are called, what were they called? Gumdrops. They're these big, like, jawbreaker-sized pellets that, I don't really know how they work. I guess they just hit you and release some sort of chemical, or like it seeps into your skin and into your blood system. Something like that. It tranquilizes you is what happens. That's why those two security officers at the beginning of the comic, their guns were so big Anyway, Quagmire tries to hit on one of the women working on the production line, and Blue Eagle immediately orders him to step outside, then reprimands him, then punches him in the face, knowing that Quagmire, former villain turned squadroneer, because his brain was rewritten by the behavioral modification machine, is unable to defend himself from one of the squadron members. They have had their brain synapses reworked to where the point that even if the squadron member, as we can see right now, is beating the shit out of them, they are powerless to fight back. So yeah, what does that say about Blue Eagle? Nothing good. He's not doing well mentally. Eagle then flies off, and 15 minutes later he returns to discover that there was a gas leak from the chemicals. Apex tells him that Quagmire pulled 30 workers to safety, but he inhaled so much of the gas that he has gone unconscious and is totally comatose. Meanwhile, across the country, Arcana arrives to the hospital at Squadron City for an examination. She waves her hands and undoes her glamour conjuration and reveals that she is actually very far along in her pregnancy. She just has been using her magic to disguise herself. And I really love this idea. I love that aspect of the character that she does this. It's such a great creative use of her abilities, and it's something that I feel should be played up more with characters like Scarlet Witch, obviously, but also like Emma Frost and other telepaths, is that they can control how we perceive them. So, like, why does that aspect never really get brought up more than it does? Dr. Decibel conducts his checkup and says that he is not sure if she should continue hiding her pregnancy like this, and says that she definitely shouldn't do any extraneous superhero work. But she tells him that it's her 4th child and that there's no worry. She's got it, then she heads out. Elsewhere, Hyperion leads Lamprey and Dr. Spectrum back to Squadron City. Hyperion asks if it's okay that he flies on ahead, and they say sure, and he takes off. And then Lamprey notices how odd Hyperion's energy feels. Lamprey has the ability, he's pretty much like Parasite from DC Comics. He can siphon the energy and the powers and whatnot of anyone that he touches, and I guess it's because he's stolen Hyperion's energy and powers before that he can, like, sense them in some way, and he knows what they're like, meaning that this one's, obviously different. But due to his B-modded brain, he is physically unable to bring up his concerns or suspicions because that would go against a squadron member. How deep does that core writing of the brain run? It goes to a horrible depth. Just imagine the illicit things that they could have had happen to him. Hyperion soars across the sky and into the office of Power Princess. He flies in and immediately comes on to Zarda. Hyperion tells her that he just can't control himself when he sees her, and she laughs and asks what the hell she's gonna do with him. And meanwhile, outside of reality, the real Hyperion is forced to watch as his changeling double takes over his life. He tries once again to free himself from wherever he's been trapped. He flies at immense speeds and attempts to rip himself back into reality. He screams in pain as he forces himself further and further, faster and faster, but he's unable to escape, and he plummets into the strange ethereal realm with which he is trapped, and that's when he sees somebody else. Master Menace! Hyperion soars over and catches him by the cape and demands to know what he's done. Master Menace reveals the entire last issue to Hyperion and how he was betrayed by Hyperion and sent himself here to escape the evil duplicate. Menace also reveals that he's fucked because his suit has run out of power, and without power, he cannot reactivate the suit to open a portal to get him back to Earth. Hyperion suspects that his atomic vision might do the trick, and Master Menace tries to make an agreement with Hyperion that once they return to Earth, neither he nor any of the squadron members, past or present, will come after him or use their B-mod on him. And Hyperion says that he's a criminal, and he'll do everything in his power to stop Master Menace. So Master Menace deuces. Sometime later, Hyperion trudges through the ethereal mist of non-reality and finds Master Menace just chilling on some rocks. Hyperion reluctantly agrees to a truce if Master Menace agrees to not attempt to interfere or tamper with the Squadron Supreme or their Utopia program. Menace agrees and tells Hyperion to focus his atomic vision on the induction coils along his chest piece of his armor. Hyperion does just that. Master Menace's armor is rejuvenated and he glows with ultimate power. He then attempts to send only himself back to Earth, but Hyperion lunges and catches hold just as the armor explodes with energy, and they arrive thousands of feet in the sky above Master Menace's castle. Hyperion thanks him for the help and soars away as Menace plummets and crashes into the Earth. Hyperion crashes into the squadron's meeting hall, finds Hyperion and clocks him out of the building. Hyperion announces what's happened and then flies out of the building after his duplicate. The rest of the squadron race out after them and split up to scour the continent for the Hyperions. Lamprey, through some weird loophole because that Hyperion is fake, informs Zarda that he knows about the fake Hyperion's energy signals and that they can track them that way. Meanwhile, over the skies of whatever they call Montana in this universe, the Hyperions duke it out and smash through Mount Rushmore. Hyperion rips the nose off of Ben Franklin, I think, and hurtles it at Hyperion. Hyperion blows it up with his atomic vision, and then they both unleash their eye beams on each other. The squadron follow Lamprey as he tracks the energy signatures as the Hyperions unleash their atomic vision on one another. Hyperion orders his corrupted clone to stand down, but Hyperion refuses and tells his double that he'll have to kill him. And in some of these panels that look so much like what Frank Miller would go on to illustrate in The Dark Knight Strikes Again, Hyperion's powers fail him, and his fucking eyes explode and melt into nothing. Hyperion falls to the ground and screams in utter pain as Hyperion blindly marches towards him and begins smashing his face into a pulp. Power Princess demands that someone stop him, and Spectrum uses his power prism to restrain the real Hyperion. Hey look, it's a return to the long sleeve look. Hyperion calls out that he also can't see anything, and realizes that he too burnt out his eyes. Not to the extent of the fake one, he's still got him in his noggin. Then he screams that that thing over there on the ground took his place and killed Zarda's husband. And then he stops resisting as Power Princess holds the evil clone in her arms. Hyperion weakly admits that he did kill Howard and begs her to forgive him. Then he disintegrates and falls apart because he's a horrible homunculus. The end. Released in 1985, written by Mark Grunwald with art by Paul Ryan. This is Squadron Supreme 9, Borrowed Time. Previously on Squadron Supreme. Later in the headquarters, Tom arrives in his lab/workshop, lamenting being the odd man out once again. He greets Ada, who excitedly tells him that she missed him today and asks how the assignments went. Tom Thumb locks his door to ensure there are no disturbances, and then has Ada run a tissue sample on himself. He heads down to the storage room where they keep the salvaged equipment from the old satellite base, and inside a crate he locates a transtemporal soma projector that he invented. He instructs Ada to process some chronal coordinates, places the helmet atop his head, and tells her that he's about to make a deal with the devil. Then Tom is ruptured through the space-time continuum and travels faster than the flow of time itself until he appears 5 feet in the air inside the throne room of Scarlet Centurion.
Now, what, pray tell, can I do for you, small one?
You said you conquered everything, even disease. Is that true?
The panacea potion cures all diseases known to man. In return for a small sample of the panacea potion, I want you to take something to your esteemed leader, Hyperion.
I can't... If he fell, you'd try to conquer the whole world. I can't do it. I can't betray my only friends like that. Damn you!
You pathetic little man.
The story begins at the operating room of Squadron City's medical center. Dr. Decibel conducts yet another operation on Hyperion in hopes of reattaching his optic nerves after he totally burnt them out against his battle against the Hyperion doppelganger 1 month prior. Just outside the room, Zarda, aka Power Princess, watches on and ponders if this time it'll work. Because she really needs Hyperion back in action since she has totally taken over as the leader of the Squadron Supreme, as the head of the Utopia program, and, you know, she kind of fell in love with Hyperion's doppelganger when she thought it was actually him. The operation is concluded, and Dr. Decibel notes that they'll have to wait a few days to see if it works. Meanwhile, Foxfire watches some of these Squadron's old video documents on the Squadron itself and the Institute of Evil. Then she flips through the files and finds the video documents on herself. It notes her information and her powers, specifically that she has the ability to project bioluminescence of an unknown nature that weakens the molecular bonds of any matter and causes it to rot entirely. Horrifying power. I imagine that these things were probably made by Tom and Ada, just because that makes the most sense. I feel like none of the other members of the Squadron would take the time to do this. The footage continues to the day that she and the other members of the Institute of Evil were captured and induced into the behavior modification machines and reformed. And it also notes that Foxfire was officially made a member of the Squadron along with the rest of the Institute of Evil on September 21st, 1985, which was issue 6 when that happened, meaning that this takes place in December of 1985. And the comic series must have, as such, began in April of 1985, which, fun fact, was a month before it released in our world. So, just to sort of give you like a neat little rundown of how long it has been since all of this started. I just think it's neat. It adds life to this story, to this universe that we're witnessing. Anyway, Dr. Spectrum sneaks up into the viewing theater behind her and uses his powers to wrap a hard light construct around her face to scare her. She freaks out, smashes the energy tendrils, and prepares to attack when she realizes that it's Doc Spectrum. Spectrum walks her out of the room and he flirts with her, and Foxfire flirts back and says that she knows of a certain recreational activity that she's in the mood for. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Blue Eagle finds Quagmire comatose in his hospital room, and he laments at how he treated the guy, and feels very guilty over his judgment of the former villain. Meanwhile, across town, Whizzer has let Lamprey absorb some of his powers, so they are now both moving at super speeds as they play tennis. Arcana's husband, Phil, heads nearby to check on the kids and finds them jumping and hurtling over and across the Shape, who has turned himself into a human trampoline and is laughing just as much as they are. Phil asks Shape if they're hurting him, and Shape tells him that he can't even feel anything. And Phil tells him to let him or Arcana know if he needs a break, and then heads back to the courts. Which is a very cute scene. I really like the Shape. He's probably one of the best characters just on terms of, like, morality. Because he's been an outcast his whole life. That's probably how he joined up with the Institute of Evils. They're the only people who accepted him, which I assume just meant using his abilities. And he just likes hanging out. He likes chilling. He likes, playing games with kids and entertaining them. Probably because he's, not the brightest. He has some sort of mental deficiencies, obviously. And he relates to him, I'd imagine. It's a scary world out there for the Shape. It's a scary world out there for the kids. So they get along perfectly. And it's super cute, and it's super sad what happens to the Shape. And I won't elaborate on that any further. Elsewhere, at the labs, Tom Thumb and Apex work together on a new device called the Hibernaculum, which is a technological casket that will keep the interred alive via suspended animation. And Apex ponders about how concerned she's become over just how much she's been falling for her scientifically minded fellow hairy cohort, Tom Thumb. Then Tom has a coughing fit and turns red in the face. His eyes water, and spittle ejects into his beard as he stumbles out of the room to go find Ada. He arrives at his office and lies down in the cot and orders Ada to run a scan on him again, as she says that he really needs to inform the others that he's dying of cancer. Tom once again refuses and again tells her to run the scan on himself as he takes a 30-minute nap. And in the dark, Ada watches Tom through blinking, glowing photoreceptors and ponders breaking her directive from Tom, her creator, and telling Apex. Cut to somewhere in the Apache mountain range. Nighthawk and Pinball pilot a helicopter carrying Mink and Remnant as they look for new recruits using the Wizard Supreme Professor Imam's magical crystal called a power pyramid, which is somehow tracking all of the people that Nighthawk wants to find to recruit to his cause. Nighthawk and Remnant then deploy his flying magical carpet, and they find Redstone, who in this panel, just because of how it's colored, looks like he's a giant tree man. But he's not. He's a massive Apache man who does have superpowers and is just massive, but he's not a tree. This looks like they're going to talk to a giant tree man, which throws me off for some reason, even though I've read this series multiple times. Even going back and doing this script for it, it threw me off again. I was like, wait, is Redstone a tree man? Back at the Squadron City's labs, Ape-X awakens Tom and reveals that Ada did in fact inform him of his condition. She begins to propose various ideas and brainstorm on what they could possibly do, but Tom silences her, saying that he's tried everything there is that they have access to. He even tried bargaining with the Scarlet Centurion in the far future, but he would only hand over the cure for cancer if Tom agreed to poison Hyperion with Argonite. Ape-X, a former supervillain, suggests that Tom simply steal the cure. And a short while after that, Tom and Ape-X bring Lamprey in on this, and Ada apologizes to Tom, but Tom tells her that he can't stay mad at his best girl. Tom and Lamprey then outfit themselves with time harnesses. Ada sets the coordinates, and Ape-X wishes them a good luck and to be safe, as the two men are sent thousands and thousands of years through time itself. And they arrive within the Chronopolis, I don't know, whatever this place is called that the Scarlet Centurion runs. Anyway, Lamprey hoists Tom into his arms, and they take off into the air in search of the Centurion's citadel. They continue their flight until Tom finally recognizes the building that he was looking for. Meanwhile, in the past of the present, Zarda enters Hyperion's hospital room, and she notes that they haven't talked since... She then goes on to explain that her people, the Utopians, have a way of speaking forthrightly, and she needs to tell him that she loves him. And that's why she fell in love so quickly with Hyperion's duplicate, because she's always been infatuated with him. And Hyperion stumbles his words and says that he's always admired and respected her as well, as a cohort and a co-worker. Then she kisses him. Back in the future, Lamprey and Tom sneak around the Citadel through the halls and towards the Temple of Eugenics. Tom races to the door. They open it to find hundreds upon thousands of containers. And in the present, Remnant finishes creating Redstone his costume as they fly to find more recruits for Nighthawk's new revolutionary force called the Redeemers.
Yeah. This looks like the stuff Centurion showed me. I almost can't believe it. The potion's mine. I'm gonna live, Lamprey. I'm gonna live.
It's playtime, Tommy boy.
Do something, Lamp. I gotta protect the serum.
Oh, I'll do something, all right. Oh, keep shooting, fuckers. Ooh, this 21st century juice feels great. Aw, they all pooped out on me.
Look at this. Look at the mess we made. Except for this vial. Everything was destroyed.
I'm a sloppy fighter, so what?
What if this is the last remaining bit of Panacea potion? They must have technology to make more. But what if they don't? What if people die before they can make more? What if they die because of me? Why do I have to be in this position? No, we went through too damn much for this. I can't go back empty-handed. Come on, activate the retrieval mechanism on your time harness.
Sir, shall we alert the Chrono Troopers and launch a pursuit?
If only the past did not have so many variables. No, that will not be necessary. Certain historical events, like Tom Thumb's fate, are known to me.
No, what? No. What is it, Tom? What happened?
It's nothing more. It's nothing more than penicillin and a few complex vitamins.
How can that be, Tom? Did you take the wrong substance? You could go back.
No. This is the panacea potion, all right. I guess it just works on 41st century folks. They've had centuries of eugenics to bolster their immune systems. But it won't do jack diddly squat for us 20th century hodads. All that racing around, all that compromising my principles, and all I got for it was zip. Yeah, it looks like it's all over for me. I guess I gotta die soon.
Tom, where are you going? Tommy?
I have to go back. I have to go back to the 41st century. I have to return what I stole.
Released in 1985, written by Mark Grunwald with art by Paul Ryan. This is Squadron Supreme 10, The Dark from Within. Previously on Squadron Supreme. Outside, Lady Lark walks alone through the facility, and then Blue Eagle finds her. And she completely ignores him, telling him that whatever fling they were thinking of igniting before no longer exists. Then Blue Eagle leaps out onto the floor and announces that he has concerns of two core members of their group, Lady Lark and Golden Archer. He calls to question how strange she's been acting these past few months. Spectrum tries to defend the couple when Blue Eagle accuses Golden Archer of straight up using the B-Mod machine on her. Apex and Quagmire are joined by Blue Eagle to oversee a facility manufacturing chemical tranquilizer pellets called Gumdrops. It tries to hit on one of the women working on the production line, and Blue Eagle immediately orders him to step outside, then reprimands him, then punches him in the face, knowing that Quagmire, former villain turned squadroneer, because his brain was rewritten by the behavioral modification machine, is unable to defend himself from one of the squadron members. Hyperion crashes into the squadron's meeting hall, finds Hyperion and clocks him out of the building. And then they both unleash their I-beams on each other. Hyperion falls to the ground and screams in utter pain as Hyperion blindly marches towards him and begins smashing his face into a pulp. Hyperion calls out that he also can't see anything and realizes that he too burnt out his eyes. The book begins at the funeral of Tom Thumb. Tom has been outfitted in his superhero attire and laid inside one of the hibernaculum caskets, which he designed as a tool to cryogenically freeze the dead so that they can later be resuscitated once the diseases that they died of are curable. Nighthawk and his team, the Redeemers, watch the news footage of the funeral and the subsequent announcement with Zarda regarding the hibernaculum. Nighthawk shuts it off, disgusted that they turned the death of their friend into a propaganda piece. And a few days later at Squadron City, Power Princess calls a meeting to a close and everyone heads off on today's assignment. Hyperion calls Apex over and discusses an issue that he's having with his image simulator glasses that she has designed for him. She takes them away and notes that she'll have to make some minor adjustments and then floats off. Then Zarda and Arcana both help him to the Squadron Lounge for some hibiscus tea. And later, Doc Spectrum and Foxfire, who have started up a relationship, fly to assist a construction crew in the demolition of a row of buildings that will be used as the site of some sort of Utopia program building. And we're finally granted a look at Foxfire's horrifying rotting powers, as in mere seconds, she destroys the entire structure to a crumbling ruin. And meanwhile, at the Squadron Hospital, Dr. Decibel makes his morning rounds and heads to the hospital room of Quagmire, who has been in a coma for about 2, maybe 3 months at this point. And Dr. Decibel opens the door and finds a horrible extra-dimensional mucus leaking out of the man's head. And I might have brought this up prior to this in some earlier episode. I can't really remember. But if I didn't, Quagmire's powers allow him to draw this horrible dark black goop. No, not that horrible black goop. From another dimension that is appropriately named the Dark Force Dimension. Fans of Cloak and Dagger rejoice, because it's kind of a tie-in to that. The Dark Force is a negative, abyssal, black, like dark matter. Essentially, it's a horrible dimension of kind of nothing. It's also what Cloak's body is made out of, and is also a portal too. So when people jump inside of Cloak or whatever, they go there. And the Dark Force gives Cloak power. It's also where Mr. Negative's powers come from. So Dr. Decibel races to the bed and tries desperately to wake him up. And elsewhere, Lamprey and Blue Eagle arrive at a newly designated National Decriminalization Institute with more equipment, and then they are given a tour of the Rehabilitation Center, where they will have 24 behavior modification machines readied at the time of the Institute's opening, with the ability to expand at a later date if necessary. And at the same time, in a civil services building in Midtown Cosmopolis, Whizzer and The Shape recruit Hybermedics for the Hibernaculum Project. The Shape is a hit with the kids, and Whizzer signs an autograph for some fans when Moonglow and Redstone arrive. They announce that they are here to apply to be members of the Squadron Supreme. Whizzer, a bit suspicious, asks that they step outside, and Redstone demonstrates his immense strength as Moonglow shows off her power of flight, control of light, and also gravity. It's all fake. She can't do any of it. She's well, at least I've always thought that she's a telepath, kind of like this world's version of Emma Frost. I honestly don't know if it's also magic, or if it's just magic. I've always just personally thought of her as a pretty strong telepathic, maybe a mutant or something, if this world has mutants, which they seemingly do, because Redstone is like Juggernaut, pretty much. Anyway, that's enough to convince Whizzer, so he blindfolds them and flies them out to Squadron City, where they arrive 2 hours later and are led inside. Meanwhile, Nighthawk watches his trackers of Redstone and Moonglow as Wyatt, now going by the name Black Archer, thanks Nighthawk for his chance to redeem himself. And Nighthawk notes that everyone needs redemption, which is why they are going to destroy the Squadron Supreme. Later that night, the Squadron all meet together to debate and discuss whether or not they should recruit Redstone and Moonglow. Whizzer notes that they're the only superhuman team in America, and that they should be accepting every superhuman into their ranks and training them as heroes, lest they fall into the world of supervillainy. Arcana agrees, but she thinks that they need to run an extensive background check. And Blue Eagle says,
"There's a way we can award them full membership right off the bat. I move that we use the B-Modern device on them, like we did to the Institute of Evil, to ensure their loyalty to us."
Now, wait a minute, Eagle. It was different with the Institute. They were known criminals and villains. We've all agreed that the machine should only be used on convicted felons.
It is the safest and most expedient way to bring in new recruits.
I agree with Wings over here. You'll all be sorry if you don't give the new Joes the treatment.
Help! Help! In the hospital! Help, please!
The Squadron all race across the Crater City to find the hospital overflowing with Quagmire's Dark Force tar. Whizzer races inside and a few seconds later explodes out with a few of the staff. He explains that there's still survivors inside, but he couldn't get past the tar. Power Princess then instructs Spectrum and Hyperion to head back inside with Whizzer. Then she tasks Arcana, Foxfire, and Lamprey to attempt to contain the goop. Then a massive eruption of Dark Force from one of the upper floors happens. Blue Eagle rescues Arcana as The Shape shields the others. Zarda orders them to instead begin evacuating the area. Hyperion and the others explode out of the roof, Quagmire and Decibel still missing. Whizzer and Spectrum begin forming a flood wall and a moat around the hospital as Power Princess and Hyperion fly around and try and figure out what the hell they're gonna do. And then they realize something. Quagmire must still be in a coma, because the way his power works is that it's his brain itself, his mind, whatever's happening in his brain is creating portals to the other Dark Force dimension and is letting that fluid spill out. Because he's unconscious, he can't control it, and now that means that the bigger the hole in his mind becomes, the more Dark Force energy and liquid and whatever this shit is is going to explode into the real world, and Hyperion asks how they're supposed to close it. And Zarda realizes that the only way they can make sure is to take Quagmire off of life support. She elects to do it herself as the squadron's leader, but Hyperion volunteers. They share a kiss in the event that it is their last, and then Hyperion dives into the Dark Force. Not long after, which took him 27 minutes to swim through, it took him that long to get to Quagmire through the hospital, Hyperion emerges with Decibel's dead body in his hands. And then he tries to explain what happened to Quagmire, but he can only assume that when his brain died, the Dark Force swallowed itself into its home dimension and took his body with it. The end. Released in 1986, written by Mark Grunwald with art by Paul Ryan, this is Squadron Supreme 11. Betrayal. The book begins far above the desert as Lamprey holds down the flag base for his team. Nearby, Blue Eagle leads his own team, comprised of the new recruits, Redstone and Moonglow, as well as The Shape. They're undergoing training exercises, obviously, it's capture the flag. Moonglow and Eagle soar out on the offense, and she basks Lamprey in her light, even though she's secretly some kind of telepath, I think, who can create very realistic illusions. As Lamprey is distracted, Redstone fastball specials The Shape and strikes him in the chest. Meanwhile, we're introduced to some more new recruits. Haywire, who has the power of squiggle control, which are actually little weird wire filaments that he can apparently project out of his fingertips. That's horrifying. Inertia, who can control and transfer kinetic energy of a person or object and redirect it into another. And Thermite, he's like that guy from My Hero Macadamia. Meet Sam Yorimoto. On the left side of his body, he has the power to control intense heat, while on the right, intense cold. The teams both battle it out simultaneously, and Moonglow uses her telepathic illusionary abilities to successfully capture the Team Spectrum's flag right before Inertia does. Everyone then heads back to the transport for Squadron City. Elsewhere, Power Princess and Hyperion do some admin work, and then Zarda pauses and thinks about all the people that they've lost and wonders if the Utopia project is still worth the cost. Hyperion tells her that everything has a cost. But when their sacrifice is compared to what the world will gain once this is all over, everything will have been worth it. And later that night, the squadron conduct a televised initiation ceremony for the new recruits. Meanwhile, Nighthawk and his Redeemers rest in their headquarters, aka his mansion. Nighthawk announces that Phase 1 is officially complete now that half of their rank has currently infiltrated the squadron. Later that night, after the celebration of the new squadron members has concluded, Moonglow sneaks through the squadron's lab building in Squadron City. Moonglow then finds a computer terminal and begins harvesting files of the Squadron City and, more importantly, the B-Mod machine. Then she sends them all through an encrypted network when she hears Apex's treads rolling down the hall and heading her way. Moonglow uses her telepathy to erase her existence from Apex's sight, and not long after, Master Menace receives the transmission from Nighthawk containing all of the schematics and files on the B-Mod machine. And Master Menace gets right to work on constructing, reverse engineering, and finding a way to reverse the effects of the B-Mod. Mostly to destroy the squadron, but also to prove that he's intellectually superior to Tom Thumb, who claimed that it was impossible to reverse the effects of the B-Mod. Tom Thumb has claimed a lot of things in his life. Not long after that, Apex is alerted by Ada that someone has accessed these secure files and sent them to an untraceable outside network. Apex asks Ada to scan the surveillance of the past half hour and finds that the only motion that wasn't Apex was Moonglow. Apex watches the footage of Moonglow getting onto the computer and hacking in, but because Moonglow is a member of the Squadron Supreme and Apex has been B-modded, she is now incapable of acting against a squadron member. Then she has a mental breakdown. Ada sends an alert out to Power Princess, and not long after, she and Hyperion find Apex totally despondent. Hyperion asks Ada what happened, and Ada weighs the options and decides that without Tom, she doesn't particularly care for the manners of humanity, and she just cannot understand their minds or these weird games that they play with one another. So Hyperion and Zarda then fly Apex to the hospital, believing that this was just a mental breakdown caused by all of the work and stress she's been under after Tom's death just over a month ago. A week later, at Nighthawk, aka ex-President Kyle Richmond's upstate New Troy mansion, he has converted it to a school of sorts to train these new superhumans who have gifts of powers. Then he's alerted by an incoming transmission from Master Menace. Menace informs him that he's finally done it. He has successfully undone the behavior modification process. A few days after this, Whizzer is accompanied by Lamprey and Haywire as they tour the first public suspended animation emporium building, aka a hibernacle. They leave and Whizzer notes that they're pretty much done for the day and asks if it's okay that he head back without him to the Squadron City to see his family. Haywire says it's fine. And after Whizzer leaves, he invites Lamprey to go get some drinks at this bar he knows from across town. Lamprey is in, and 15 minutes later they arrive to find the bar closed and empty. And Haywire and Lamprey head in, confused as to what's happened. Haywire says that they should take a look around, and as Lamprey begins walking in and inspecting, he is tangled by Haywire. Lamprey, unable to fight back because Haywire is a member of the Squadron, is pulled into the back room where he finds members of the Redeemers accompanied by Master Menace. Lamprey is then forced into the seat of Menace's new B-Mod machine, crying out that they won't get away with this. And for 4 minutes, he has his brain altered and the effects of the B-Mod machine reversed. So how do you feel?
I feel like a great load has been lifted off of my brain. I feel like my old self again.
We freed you from the Squadron's brainwashing. You're free to go, but if you're interested in fully getting back what they stole from you, I recommend you join us.
You promised to take shape on picnics? This is no picnic.
Here's that ice you ordered.
Thaw his head out so we can put it under the machine.
Please. Please don't hurt Shape. Please don't hurt me. Please.
Any problem getting him away from the Squadron without suspicion?
No. 3 of us were with Blue Eagle breaking up some arms smuggling ring. That idiot's still helping the cops clean up.
Oh, we got trouble, people. Bright boys over here will follow. Fortunately, we got the drop on Eagle before it saw us.
Nighthawk. I'm sorry, I didn't think
I'm
you
real
could.
sorry, Nighthawk, sir.
Menace, deprogram Shape while I figure this out.
To Shape?
What is there to figure out? All we have to do is put Blue Eagle under my behavior modification program and program him to be loyal to us.
No. That's exactly why we're fighting the Squadron. Altering minds to make them believe what you wish them to is categorically wrong.
You are talking idealistic nonsense, Nighthawk. This is war.
If we're serious about winning, you will use every weapon at your disposal. Would you instead we kill him?
Boss, I'm real sorry.
Quiet. Ship's deprogrammed. Quicker than I thought. Now, Nighthawk, what are we going to do about Blue Eagle?
Fine. Do it. But just make him forget today. Make him forget us.
You have nothing to fear, Blue Eagle.
Released in 1986, written by Mark Grunwald with art by Paul Ryan, this is Squadron Supreme 12, The Dregs of Victory. The book begins in the midst of yet another reversal of the Squadron Supreme's behavior-modified supervillains. Foxfire screams in pain, and Master Menace tells her that fighting the process is only going to make it hurt more. Once the reverse B-mod is complete, she sits dazedly in the chair of the machine as Nighthawk, leader of the Redeemers, apologizes for having to use force to bring her here. As Black Archer and Nighthawk free her from the seat, he asks if she would like to join them in avenging what they did to her into the world. And Foxfire readily agrees. Lamprey, having already been reverse B-modded a month prior, soars out of the window with her, and they return to Squadron City. Master Menace and Remnant begin disassembling Menace's machine for transit, as Master Menace calls Nighthawk a fool for hoping that this can all be resolved without violence. Menace tells him that if he truly wants to win, he'll B-mod the Squadron and force them to give up their devotion to the Utopia program. Master Menace packs up and tells Nighthawk to let him know when he comes to his senses. Then he climbs onto his hovering container, activates his suit, and teleports away. Meanwhile, Foxfire and Lamprey fly over a city and come across a gunfight between police and some people in a large home. Foxfire tells Lamprey that they need to go down there and help, and Lamprey calls her crazy, because they don't have to do that shit anymore. And at Squadron City suburbs, Spectrum joins Whizzer and his family for breakfast as Whizzer's wife tries to talk Spectrum into revealing more information about his relationship with Miss Foxfire. And she tries to suggest maybe Spectrum might settle down with her. Spectrum laughs this off and tells Whizzer that they should probably get going. Across town, The Shape, confused since his B-mod reversal, finds Ape X in her catatonic state at the medical center. He enters her room and tells her that The Shape is sad because he doesn't know who his friends are after Thermite and Redstone betrayed him, because now they and their friends are telling Shape to hate the Squadron. But Shape doesn't want to. He doesn't want to hurt the Squadron because they're also his friends. He asks Apey, who has been Shape's friend for years and is smart and always knows what to do, what Shape should do. And unbeknownst to The Shape, Moonglow is watching, and she casts her illusions on his already weak mind and makes him see Apex speaking to him, telling him that the Squadron are not to be trusted, and that he should only trust the Redeemers. Elsewhere in the medical center, Arcana and her husband meet the doctor about her pregnancy, and it is revealed that she could give birth at any time within this next week. The doctor also recommends that Arcana refrain from superheroics, but of course she doesn't listen and uses her magic to change her appearance again. Meanwhile, out on the Squadron airfield, Redstone and Blue Eagle see to Tom Thumb's hibernaculum as it is loaded into one of the squad's air cars. Blue Eagle laments Tom's death and the fact that he'll never get to see the Utopia that he was an architect in building. Redstone just kind of plays along and says that he never had the chance to meet Tom and gives his condolences, and then he wonders how hard it's going to be to kill Blue Eagle today. Across the country at the White House, Power Princess and Hyperion sit in with the cabinet and officially hand over control of the government, excluding national security, law enforcement, and maintenance of the Utopia program. Hyperion and Zarda leave the White House and hold hands, and he tells her that she was incredible and is quite the spokesperson. She tells him that she learned a thing or two after years of watching him do it, and then they fly up, and away, and proclaim their love for one another and the possibility of their future. 2 hours later, in front of the country's first hibernacle facility, Power Princess speaks to the massive crowd in attendance.
My fellow Americans, the Squadron Supreme is proud to be standing before you here today on the eve of a new era for the country. It was a year ago when we last faced the nation like this, when the nation was in upheaval. We promised to get the country back on its feet and right the many wrongs that have occurred. The Squadron has worked hard to accomplish the goals we set out for ourselves, and we paid a high price. Of the 11 who stood before you a year ago, only 6 stand before you today. I'd like to enumerate all of the promises we made to you. We said we'd restore the economy, and we did. We have created thousands of new jobs, and we vitalized our industries with new technologies. We have abolished poverty, established food relief centers in low-income areas. We have eliminated crime down to 5% of what it was a year ago. Convicted criminals are now well-adjusted members of society. We said we would stop war, and we did. America is at peace with the world, and our armed forces have been demobilized and our nuclear armaments dismantled. Of the many promises that we have achieved for you, the most major was that we promised you to cure disease and death. And thanks to the sacrifice of Tom Thumb, we have found a way to do just that. Today we dedicate the magnificent building before you, the nation's first hibernacle, to Thomas Thompson, the hero, Tom Thumb. And as the first resident, he will await for the day in which he can once again walk in the sunshine.
Archer, turn that off.
Penny for your thoughts, Blue Boy.
They are not worth that much, Mink.
I'll brighten up and think of the private victory celebration I promised you and Mrs. Oliver.
Hey, everybody slow down. There's a copter on the field. What the?
Squadron, fall in.
Kyle? What are you doing here? How did you find this place? We stand here as America's redeemers, Hyperion. We're here to relieve you of all of the authority you usurped. Surrender peacefully, and there won't be an incident. So I gather you haven't relented on your position that what we're doing, that everything we've done, is wrong?
Don't you think being outnumbered nearly 2-1 puts you in no position to demand anything?
On the contrary.
What?
Fire? I don't know how you did it, but I'll admit it was clever. You always were our best strategist, Kyle.
We will not surrender, Nighthawk. We have come too far, worked too hard. We have lost too much.
I couldn't convince you that what you had planned to do was wrong. You couldn't be reasoned with, but perhaps with a threat of force. Kyle, please! Can't you see the good that we've done? How can you deny it? I deny the way it was accomplished by the systematic assault on human rights.
This talking stuff's driving me nuts. Let me at 'em.
Oh, I'm ready for you, freak.
Quick, I've got him bound. Kyle, please, we've got to stop this. Call him off for God's sake. I can't stop this, Hyperion. People are going to die. You started it. Only you can stop it by surrendering. Kyle, please. Can't you see the good that we've done? How can you deny it? You're out of touch. Oh, my glasses.
Don't think I'm letting you sit this one out.
Come back here again. I'm a huge fan.
Hey, Wire! Don't we get a drop on Whizzer? Here he comes! Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Arcana, wait.
We're gaining on you, Blondie.
Mink, stop.
Stop right there. Ever wondered what Earth's gravity would feel like if it became 5 times stronger? Let's see how you like it at 10.
What happened? Zarda, no! No! No more! Zarda, are you alright?
Help. The others.
You can count on it, babe. Oh, and I thought my battle senses were rusty. What are you doing here, Wyatt? You know, when I last saw you, Joe, you'd totally sworn off violence. Now you just blindsided a woman. Looks like people really do change, huh? We were friends. We would have given our lives for each other. I gotta redeem myself, Joe. Squadron's gonna fall. Sorry, but I can't let anything stand in my way. Oh my God, Joe! What happened? That wasn't supposed to happen! That wasn't... Moonglow, what are you doing?
I am simply detaining Arcana Shape to keep her from using her magic against us.
But Arcana not bad. She got little boys and girls who be Shape's friends.
Nonetheless, Shape, she's trying to hurt us.
How Arcana get there? What happened to Moon?
Shape will use help. having a baby. Get me to the hospital, please.
Okay. Shaped like you better than Moonglow. Why Moon look different?
What good's a god when he's blind, huh? Hype man, your strength is overrated. Admit it. You're done.
Gotcha! Woo! Hyperion's power is mine. I got a full charge, baby.
Joe, what happened? Please don't be dead. Please, please, please.
I'm not dead yet. You can't get rid of me that easy.
I'm so sorry. I love you.
Out of the way, Carpetbagger. I want to use Hype's power to break some bones. Oh, happy landings.
Oh my god, he's trying to land on Pinball! Pinball! Pinball, move! No! What did he do to you? Oh my god, he's not breathing! Lamprey! Go get some help, please!
That
I think his back's
chickens,
broken!
I
He's
got
not
heads
breathing!
to cave in.
So what do you want me to do with him, Nighthawk?
Just put him down, Redstone. And go get the others and bring them back here.
You know, I've always dreamed of going one-on-one with Hyperion. And today, I did it. I beat him. Glasses.
Here you are, old friend. I want you to know that we're not going to use the behavior modification on you. But I know that you would have done it to us. After we figure out how to keep you from society, we'll be phasing out all of your innovations. We'll offer the reversal of the modifications. I will see to it that everything you did is undone. And we will restore this country and the world to the way it was before superhumans began throwing their weight around.
Joey, I swear I didn't want them to do that to me.
Olivia, you have to do something. You have to.
I'm gonna prove it to you.
Let's leave morality out of this just for a moment. You want to know what's the biggest argument against the Squadron and what you tried to do? It's that you created a utopia that needs you to constantly maintain it. All of the things you gave the world, all of those things only work for the good of society as long as good-intentioned people oversee them. But what happens when you're gone? Can future generations be trusted to use what you created for noble causes? I don't think so. Your utopia system is a failure because it requires beings as powerful and as good as you to prevent its abuse. But today's utopia is tomorrow's totalitarian state. It's better to dismantle your perfect system and let the governments of an imperfect species run a system that they're already capable of handling.
Nighthawk!
Foxfire, what's on?
No!
I'm sorry.
What did you do?
Joey.
Heart for a hug, you pig.
No, Olivia, no!
Where do you think you're going?
Go to hell, leech! The waste. So, all of this was a senseless waste. The Squadron Supreme hereby surrenders. This is Hyperion, recording the final log within the Squadron Supreme records. 7 people. Nighthawk, dead on arrival. Heart failure. Foxfire, died in surgery an hour ago. Massive internal bleeding. Blue Eagle, dead on arrival. Broken neck. Pinball, dead on arrival. Broken spine. Black Archer, died in surgery a half hour ago. Massive trauma to the head. Thermite, still in critical condition. 10% chance of recovery. Lamprey, dead on arrival. All of body not yet recovered. There was a danger in calling ourselves the Squadron Supreme. We began to believe that we always knew what we were doing. That our noble ends justified our ignoble means. Before he died, Kyle Richmond, Nighthawk, made me see that in our haste to save the world, we never considered any long-term consequences of our deeds. Ours is a precarious utopia. We dare not make society dependent on them. As of our final squadron meeting, February 1986, I have motioned to disband the Squadron Supreme and dismantle the system we instituted. Voted in approval, unanimously. Keep this saved, Ada. I want this to be remembered.